There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Level 10, Knights of Last Call, the final countdown. We made it here to the end, and we are joined by everybody. We are joined by, who are we joined by here? We're joined by, let's see. Oh, no. My video stopped. There we go. Okay. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a crazy stream. We've got a couple guests today. We got Steven from Roll for Combat.
Hello.
We've got Donnie from And Boothby and Pawn No Longer, aka Damian Williams, from the Knights of Last Call Patreon. And I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Bob Bumberger, everybody.
Yeah.
Northern Reaches GM extraordinaire.
Expert now.
Expert GM.
Bob doesn't know all the rules.
Bob, at this rate, you may actually end up GMing more Pathfinder 2 than me when all is said and done.
I've gotten a lot of games under my belt these days.
Awesome. Well, again, welcome everybody for welcome here to the stream, and welcome to everybody who's joined us, and special thank you to all of the guests who decided to help us out tonight. So tonight is a culmination of about a 6 or 7 month project that started with kind of someone kind of mocking me, or not really mocking me, but taunting me, saying there's no way that I would ever actually do all of the streams. And here we are almost 85 hours later, and we have gone through 600, or after tonight, I should say, we'll have gone through 693 spells of Pathfinder 2, which obviously includes almost everything from the game except for some of the earlier spells that got released in later books. So things like Dark Archive, which just came out. And
it's like a 2-week work course.
So you're not done. Then you're not done.
Well, that is to be decided if the patrons willing and want it. If we'll keep this up to date, we'll go back and cover the ones that we missed. And of course, Pathfinder 2, 693. Those are rookie numbers. There's like another 300 or 400 focus spells, and then there's like another good 100 cantrips. So obviously, in some ways, the job is never done. But we did do all of the spells as they were available at the time. And so in celebration of that tonight, we have the Knights of Last Call Hype Boss in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. 693 hit points because there were 693 spells. And your tips, your super chats, your YouTube memberships, even a subscription if you're not a subscriber, will all contribute to finally killing the Knights of Last Call and putting me out of my misery. So we
I didn't know we were actually dead. It was great.
So we will definitely we'll definitely appreciate any of that for tonight. But yeah, so tonight, like I said, is a little special. We've got 20 level 10 spells to rank, and of course, you've been playing your Dungeons and Dragons. You've been playing your 3rd edition and your 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. 9th level spell, those are for kids. Those are for kids. Pathfinder 2 goes to 10. I should have gone to 11. That'd have been hilarious. But it goes to 10. So we've got 20 spells, the very most powerful spells in the game. And we are going to go ahead and sort of do a round robin table discussion approach to sort of rank them. And then after we're done ranking our last final 20 spells, I've also got the data. I went through all of our prior rankings and I assembled them into a spreadsheet so that we could sort of look at some of the data about spells, traditions, breakdowns, and really sort of get a statistical picture, because we're nerds like that, at what Pathfinder 2 spell data looks like. And most importantly,
we like stats. And
most importantly, answer the question once and for all: which tradition is number 2? Which tradition is second best? It's colloquial wisdom that Arcane is the best, and in fact, I believe Mark Seifter himself said on RFC on Tuesday that it was the best. And most people, again, colloquially believe divine is the worst. But this question of occult or primal being number 2 or number 3, that one is up in the air. But we have the data to answer that question, so we're going to get to it. All right, so let's get into it. For my guests, feel free to chime in as you want. For folks at home, you have the spell up on your screen. You guys can either watch it on the stream, or you can bring up your own archives of Nethys. But we're going to get started. And of course, obviously, if there are any questions or statements that you wish to make in chat. I'm probably not going to be able to get to it tonight unless you super chat or tip, just because it's going to be busy with us having so many guests. And of course, thank you to everyone who has supported this project along the way. Thank you to the Knights of Last Call Patreon, for which this entire channel wouldn't be around if not but for. All right, so let's get into it. All right, well, we start off with one of 4 spells, which basically kind of gets replicated several times. Every tradition gets basically their wish equivalent, and our first one is from the occult tradition. So we have occult only. It is divination for some reason. 3 actions, and you manipulate the spiritual multiverse. You can duplicate anything from the occult list, 9th level or lower, to which you have access. Then you can duplicate any spell from any spell list of 7th level or lower to which you have access. Meaning, you can't start casting rare spells just because you got alter reality. I suppose you still have to have the ability to cast it. You can produce any effect whose power is equivalent to any occult 9 or any non-occult 7 or lower, which is sort of your catch-all fun, hey, GM, would this work? And then there are certain effects in the game which state that they can only be affected or reversed by something that is of wish equivalent power. And of course, as always with these type of spells, this sort of push your luck. You can try to produce greater effects at the GM's discretion, but this is dangerous, and the spell may only have a partial or potentially unintended consequence.
Are these or and?
Any of the following effects. So it's or you have to pick one.
Okay, so this is not that good.
Well, okay. So what are we getting here? Well, it's 3 actions. So obviously it's action inefficient, but you basically get access to the entire spell list for 1 spell.
So the thing is that Wish is going to be better than Alter Reality because Wish is the better spell list.
That is correct. That is correct. That is something we have to keep in mind, is that occult and primal, and certainly divine, the list that you're getting access to is not as strong as the arcane list, which is, number 1, we think stronger. And number 2, I can tell you this, there's a lot more arcane spells than there are divine spells, just in number. But in general, I mean, Wish has been around in D&D since the beginning of the game. I've had people cast it. I've cast it. What
did Wish do in D&D?
Anything and everything.
Well, that's what this should be.
Well, yeah, but it's Pathfinder 2, so it's got to be balanced.
It is anything at GM's discretion. So
yeah,
that part I liked the last sentence.
I mean, really, what it comes down to is that 3rd bullet point, right?
This spell is entirely dependent on whatever your GM's willing to let you get away with.
Right. So it all really comes down to your GM in that 3rd bullet point, right? Which is to produce any effect with of whose power is equivalent. And I guess the real question is, at this point, when you are here at this point in the game, do you even need this kind of spell?
I didn't even cross my mind to grab this on my spell list, because I would just take more of the other spells. Like, why would I want something to just go backwards?
The only thing I think that saves this.
Can I just get scrolls?
Well, the thing that saves this is that you can replicate what happens on those lower level spells, even if they take longer than 3 actions to cast.
That's true.
Right. So
that's
if you
a
had a
good
2-round
point.
spell.
I mean, well, the other thing to remember too is right. Like, correct me if I'm wrong here. You get 1 10th level slot. If you want a second 10th level slot, you have to use your 20th level feat to do it, right? So you're only going to get 1 of these 10th level slots. It feels kind of like a waste to, like, I don't know, upgrade Chain Lightning, to 10th level. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it really comes down to how much fun and flavor you're going to have with the game, and is your GM going to let you, really explore the space with this?
So I mean,
you could technically cast a level 9 2-round Horizon Thunderspear with 1 spell slot.
That's true. Boothby, you were saying?
So one of the big things with Wish and Prayer editions was, I wish for a stat boost. Would you allow this in Pathfinder 2? Would you allow a wished stat boost?
Well, no, I mean, based on the 4 bullet points, no. Based on any reasonable modicum of balance, no. if it was my game. But here's the other problem. Well, let's reverse it. Wish also used to have steep prices in experience points, at least in 3rd edition versions of the game, right? You had to pay XP to cast
Life
Wish.
Force.
Yeah,
You aged.
Yeah, or you aged, or you had, and then you had to
it
make
says that, right? The dangerous, it might have a partial effect. I mean, you could sort of give a give and take if you wanted to as a GM.
All right. Well, thoughts on Alter Reality, keeping in mind that you're pretty much getting access to the occult list. Well, we don't have a thumbs down, Bob. We have a grading scale system.
I'm only good with emojis ratings, so.
We'll start with you, Steven. Do you have a thought on the grade for Alter Reality?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I keep thinking because Wish has been around since the beginning, and the thing about Wish is when I used to play it as a kid, boy, it wasn't that you would wish for something. It was how can the GM screw you in as many ways as possible, and that it really became a game upon itself. And they basically kept that ability in there. Like you can turn it into a traditional wish, but they even just say right there, like you will get screwed probably. So just keep that in mind. So instead it's just a wild card spell. It's sort of like, here's a wild card spell that can also counter wish, which is kind of what Wish I think was intended to do. So I think this is like a balanced wish.
Yes, I agree.
I don't know. I mean, it has to be in the game, and it's nice they made one for every
Yes, when Wish didn't, when clerics and druids and stuff didn't get one, that did kind of suck that they didn't get the
no, it sucks. And
so in the original D&D they didn't.
Yes,
you only one.
Yeah,
only wizards
got it.
Only wizards got it.
Only wizards.
Well, that's
got
interesting.
It. Yeah, so this is
what about in 5e?
I don't know.
5e might have Miracle.
I think they have Miracle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they actually introduced Miracle in 3rd edition.
So that's why they have 4 of these, because they have one for each.
Right.
Well, that is cool that each of the major classes can do it.
Yeah, that's why they did
or
it.
the
So it's just a rename
lists.
for each tradition. So like Alter Reality, Wish, and I forgot what the other 2 are. So I mean, you have to have it in the game, but quite frankly, I mean, I'd probably give it like a C. I mean, it's fine and it's good, but you probably, unless you can, there's probably some way to break it, and it's like, oh, you can do this and cast a spell that takes like a day, and now it's only 3 actions, and I'm sure there's some shenanigans, but you know, when you're 20th or 17th level and you're casting 10th level spells, how much shenanigans do you need, really? You know?
Yeah, that's. I mean, there's sort of two schools of thought here, right? Which is, one is, who cares? Your game's about to be over. On the other school of thought, it's like, man, you have so many other things that you could be doing. Like, it's almost like you don't even really need this. So,
I say C.
C, Donnie.
Oh, yeah, C.
Okay.
B minus C, something in there.
Bob.
D.
Oh, Boothby.
I have to rate the versatility high. It is a B for get out of jail free if you can find the spell that does what you need in the moment. It is in the moment.
Gotcha. And Mr. Williams.
The utility's too good to rate it anything lower than a B.
Okay, so we got a couple B's, we got a couple C's, and then we got a D.
I mean, I'm not the outcast, but I think this thing's whatever.
I don't think it is a C. I think it's probably like a high C, maybe a B. It is very versatile. I also really like the occult spell list. I think there's a lot of weird spells in there that this could give you a lot of versatility to. I will say this, though, and a caveat. If you want to include this caveat, it's like a C minus. The caveat is some asshole is going to cast this at your game. And then like it's going to be some really shit moment. And they're going to go, alter reality. And you're going to turn to them and say, hey, what are you doing? And they're going to go, I don't know, hold on a sec. And then they're going to start looking through every single spell in the game, trying to find that one spell that
sounds awful.
That is going to find them. And they're going to just keep flipping through the spell until they find one spell. Hey, we just got a $25 tip from, of course, the secret patron of the Knights of Last Call, Jason B., tipping $25, which of course does 50 points of damage to the Knights of Last Call hype boss. That's right, tips do double damage. Super chats.
Critical hit.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's right. Stream element tips do crits, double damage. Super chats only do regular damage. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and throw us a subscriber. That's worth 3 points of damage. And if you join the channel as an adventurer, it'll do a whopping 25 points of damage for your donation of $7. So that's really good ROI right there. And of course, if the Knights of Last Call hype boss is destroyed, whoever dealt the killing blow, they become the new hype boss, and then they can tip to add to their hit point total, whereas everybody else could try to kill them.
Just as confusing as Pathfinder.
Now, when Knights of Last Call die, okay, if it's a critical hit from a tip, we go to dying 2. But then if we get hit again, if that's a critical hit, it's dying 4. Unless we took Die Hard, in which case we go to
Die Hard.
All right, so we're gonna put Alter Reality at B, low B, pending some shenanigans.
Well, you got 3 more to vote on.
That's true.
So
all right, next is a divine spell. So I am prepared to be disappointed. This is the level 10 righteous might, basically. This is
text.
This is Avatar. So this is a level 10 spell. You transform into an avatar of your deity. 1 minute, 2 actions to cast. It does have the polymorph trait. You assume a huge battle form. At this level of the game, huge is where you want to be. That's pretty sweet. It gives you a lot of control. It gives you an extra 10 feet of reach, so you have 15 foot of reach.
Wouldn't you already be huge, because everyone casts in large?
Yeah, I mean, that's not the,
okay.
Ben A just tipped $25 as well. Thank you, Ben A, for that $25 tip. Doing some damage, getting the hype damage done. Very, very good. Hold on a sec, everybody. Okay, so this is a polymorph ability that transforms you into this huge monstrous form. And what am I looking at here? What's happening? What happened to my chat?
I don't know. I see everything.
You see everything?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to be updating.
I mean, you are looking at 5 monitors. So.
I know. I'm looking at a lot of monitors. Okay. All right. I found it. I just wanted. Okay, here we go. I wanted to see if Ben said anything funny or interesting. He says, "My kineticist strides forward and with grim determination raises the water in a 20-foot area around the hype boss." By the way, Jason B said, "I am the genie from the lamp. You have 3 wishes. The rules are it has to be a spell you could otherwise cast, or it has to be a very weak spell that you can't cast, or something like a spell. Can I wish someone to be dead? Sure, but they get a save and it's in cap." That's what Jason B was saying about Ultra Reality.
Sounds like a D spell.
Okay. All right. So Avatar is 20 AC 25 plus your level. So let's take a look at this. You're right now sitting on probably, if you're a cleric, you're sitting on expert weapon or expert armor proficiency. So that's worth 4. You might be you're probably getting 9 points, or maybe say 8 points between your armor and your armor runes. So you're looking at 13 points plus your level. So your base AC is 13 plus your level. This makes your AC 25 plus your level. So it basically makes your armor equivalent to like a fighter's. Not a champion's, but like a fighter. So it is probably a 1 or 2 point AC increase. Even if you're a cloistered cleric, you've probably maxed out your dex enough that you probably are only picking up 2 points of AC for this. You're getting 30 temporary hit points, which isn't horrible. I do think that they're a little stingy with temporary hit points. You get dark vision. Probably don't need that at this point in the game, but that's okay. You get a strike, which depends on your god, which is every single god in the game. That's nice that they included every single god. Oh, and all the Mwangi gods, and
is that what's below?
And all the gods from Knights of Last Wall, and all the gods from Lost Mammoth Valley.
And guess what? I hate to break it to you, because I'm putting out my book soon with the balance, which has the new gods. And guess what? We got the avatar forms in there too. So
you get a plus 33 to hit, which again, we're level 20 here. Or close to it. So this is pretty much equivalent to your attack modifier if you're not a fighter. They're strength-based attack, and they are all strength unless they are finessed. And then you have an athletics modifier. So basically, you just become a big, huge, kind of bad martial character.
I mean, the AC is sweet.
The AC is a nice little buff, but remember, it's a polymorph. And even though it says you have hands in your battle form and you could take manipulate actions, you can't cast spells. Because that is the polymorph trait. And I am sorry, but if I've come this far to be able to cast 10th level magic and I am a cleric, what the hell am I doing giving up my ability to cast spells? What?
Huh.
This whole spell is a slap in the face, right? Because 30 temporary hit points. Okay, great. I can be breathed on by a fighter and last one round. And then you gain dark vision, like not even greater dark vision.
That is actually true. That's kind of weak.
It's so weak.
It's not even like greater dark vision or something.
If my god gave me this spell, I would change gods.
You take up 8 more squares and get 30 extra hit points.
That's true.
Hit point per square ratio.
I mean, some of these people do get pretty nice speed increases. I mean, like a lot of these things, though, you see like speed 50. It's like, well, my experience, most people are 25. They're fleet, they're 30. They're long strider, they're 40, and then they have an item bonus from their boots, so they're already at 50. Everybody in our party when we were higher level was 50 speed base. So going to speed 50 isn't really a boost. You get some of these get airwalk thrown in for free, which isn't bad. But even the damage, like Gorham is 60, 12 plus 6. That's probably like the best you're gonna do.
Where does it say you can't cast spells?
So a part of the
under
the polymorph trait.
Oh, right.
But it says like if the spell otherwise says it. This one does not. It just says you can do manipulate actions.
Yeah, unless
I
otherwise.
wonder if that's a mistake. I wonder if that was updated in the FAQ.
Well, it hasn't. According to everybody else, it has not because. But it says yes, unless otherwise noted, the battle form prevents you from casting spells, from speaking, and from using most manipulate actions that require hands. Your gear is absorbed into you, and the constant abilities of your gear still function, but you can't activate any items. And so early polymorphs don't even give you, even if you have a mouth, unless it says you can speak, you can't speak. And so this one gives you hands, so you can manipulate, but it doesn't specifically say that you can. In fact, this one doesn't even say you can speak. So when you go into this avatar form, you're not allowed to speak. You can be like, "Urgh."
Okay, well, does anyone in the chat know like which one I'm supposed to be looking at this 100 spell or this 100 god list? Which one's the good one?
I mean,
there's so many to look through.
I don't even need to look through it. I'm going to say it's a D because I'm a cleric.
These are all balanced.
Well, no, if I'm casting this, I'm now, well, assuming I'm not a war priest, but even if I am a war priest, I go into this, I can't smite. I can't use harm spells to smite. That's why I was a war priest. And if I'm a cloistered cleric, that means I have just locked out 37 spells worth of my abilities, plus all my scrolls, plus all my wands, plus my staff, all of my feats, which I've taken, which are probably boosting my spellcasting capability. And yeah.
So I'm just going to go on a side, a small, go with B.
Derek's missing the most important point is that you can't be an avatar of a philosophy.
Oh, does it also screw you if you don't have a god? Of course.
Oh, that's funny.
You could be anything, but you have to choose a god. You really do.
Well, so this is what I was looking at. I was just going through the list really quick, and I feel like the people that know Northern Reaches, one of our games on the Discord for Pathfinder 2, I feel like I could have transformed into the grandmother spider and have been a better spider than the spider that I created for Northern Reaches. Because it would have had 45 AC or something ridiculous, or who knows, it would have been a little bit more of a detriment, but it was not. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool that you could transform into some kind of avatar of your god, but I don't know. Seems kind of. I
mean, you're a spellcaster. It doesn't make you that insane of a melee person. I mean, because at this level too, sure, you got the attack bonus. But all those other classes have 20 levels worth of feats that are helping them be a much better combatant, right? Like, especially at high levels, all those feats really do make a difference. I think at lower levels, it's like, well, you only have a couple feats, doesn't make that much of a difference. But at higher levels, I don't know. I say D. Donnie.
F.
Booth B.
F. Like, it doesn't even give you an intimidation bonus. Like, if I'm turning into an avatar, at least let me be.
Well, Donnie, you can't speak, so you can't use things with the linguistic trait.
Yeah, but maybe I have intimidating glare. I don't know.
Why? If you had intimidating glare, I think you could still use it. But if you didn't have intimidating glare, you could not.
It's trash.
Boothby.
Yeah, I gotta go with D.
Okay.
I mean,
Mr. Williams.
Absolutely D. It's a
D,
cool
okay.
D, but it's a D.
Yeah, cool D, but a D. Bob?
Yeah, I actually think cool D. I think it's kind of cool. The AC is sweet, but I feel like the rest of it's worthless.
And Steven.
Man, this stream is depressing. I love this spell.
Well, welcome to the Knights of Last Call.
I know. Yeah, well, from a flavor point of view, this is like one of my favorite spells. It's really cool, and just seeing like and just reading it through and seeing like all the different avatars, it's awesome. It's just like fun and very imaginative.
Yes, 100%. I do 100% agree with that.
It's
So
like
shouldn't
one
it
of
be
these-
even cooler? Like it should be better because you're
I
transforming into
know.
like an avatar of your
I
god. It
know,
should be
I know.
sweet.
it should be cool and effective.
I know, but it's depressing now because I was like, from a flavor, it's like an S, but from mechanics, you're kind of right. It is unfortunate, like probably a D or so.
Yeah.
which is sad because it's
Yeah.
so awesome.
It is. And I got to admit, like, there are many things in Pathfinder 2 that I think they got right. And when I look at some of the, because I mean, I played through Godzilla, okay, like in 3rd edition, and I had some combat monster clerics, and we had one cleric, a druid, who was absolutely insane, especially when the yellow spell compendium book came out, and it had like the bite of the werebear, bite of the weretiger, bite of the wereboar. If you know those spells, you know they were busted. And like the druid was out damaging like the barbarian X3. And you know, that was obviously really ridiculous. And so when I saw the battle forms of a lot of the earlier editions of Pathfinder 2, I really liked them. I thought they did a really good job with them. And I really do think that they stuck the landing on a lot of those battle forms with the polymorph spell. But given that the battle form specifically can't cast spells and you're a max level cleric or sorcerer with divine casting this, it's just like, you're just giving up too much. And I don't think you're getting enough back in return. So I'm going to go with D. I'm not going to give it an F because I think it functions like the mechanic. You get an AC boost. You're attacking at the appropriate attack bonus. But you know,
This is like a role playing spell. Like this, you see, I think this is.
except you can't
it's-
speak.
Well, I would make it that they could speak. I think that's a mistake. But the point is like, from a combat point of view, this is a bad spell, but
Yeah.
from a flavor and role playing, this
Yeah.
is a great spell.
Yeah, I mean, like the mental image, right, of this like cloistered robed cleric on a field of battle with this army of light behind him and the army of darkness for him, and he crawls to the sky and the clouds part and a golden beam shoots onto him, and you know, like if you've ever played Dawn of War, and you know when the I am Kayla Mensha Kane, and the massive, or like the Bloodthirster is born, and this massive, huge avatar of your deity strides forth, and he roars out in a booming voice, you know. But none of that happens here.
Well, yeah.
And then
I
he
would've-
hits one person with one action.
Yeah, I would have rewritten the spell not as even combat spell, but as a buff spell. For your
Yes,
party.
I agree. Actually, I think that's actually a lot better. I also like what Austin said. He goes, you know, really, level 10 spells have no business even being balanced. I'm kind of on that point too. Like,
Absolutely, you've reached the pinnacle.
Yeah, this is the penultimate magic, and suddenly you can't cast magic.
right.
So
All right, Bob.
That's kind of funny.
Bob, your favorite spell, Cataclysm.
Oh, hold on, I'm loading. I love this spell.
Hey.
You get to roll so many dice.
We'll tell the Cataclysm story. All right, Cataclysm has, you guessed it, has all the traits: acid, air, cold, earth, electricity, evocation, fire, and water.
is this the only full eight trait spell?
I believe so. 1,000-foot range. Hell yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
60-foot burst, massive, arcane and primal, and it's just and you know what I love about this spell for all of it? It's just a basic reflex save. It's just a basic reflex save. And you call upon, this is, okay, a little hyperbole here, because we were joking about this, because we're like, you call upon the unimaginable world-ending power of a cataclysm, and we're like, if you do all this damage, you'll do about a third of the damage of hit points of like a level 20 fighter. But the following effects come down upon all creatures in the area. Treat the resistances of creatures in the area as if they were 10 lower for purposes of determining the cataclysm's damage. So, you know, if they're immune, they're immune. That part sucks. But if they have resistance 10 or 15, that stuff gets reduced down to 0 or 5.
Yeah.
They apply one they make one basic reflex save that applies to all of the damage. And it's Acid Rain for 3d10, Earthquake for 3d10, Freezing Wind for 3d10, Lightning for 3d10, Wind for 3d10, Tsunami for 3d10, and Wildfires for 3d10. So all total, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You only take 5.
It is 20. No, it's 5 types of damage.
Oh, 5 types. I know that.
It's 21 d10.
Yeah.
The radius, Anthony, is 60 feet. 60 feet. And you know what I like to pull up? I like to pull up their friendly calculator because that's how we do things.
I think you're factoring the damage wrong.
Why?
You don't take all the 3d10 bludgeonings. It's 3d10 if you're on the ground. It's 3d10 if you're flying.
Oh.
It's 3d10 if you're in the water.
Got it.
It's 5 types of damage, each one 3d10.
Gotcha. So you get acid for 3d10, wind for 3d10, lightning for 3d10.
Yeah, the bludgeoning, you take bludgeoning.
Well, no, because look, the tsunami says an instant tsunami sweeps over the creatures dealing 3d10 bludgeoning damage with the water trait doubled for creature swimming. So you take the tsunami no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, but the winds is flying.
The winds if you're flying.
The winds you only take if you're flying, and the earthquake you only take if you're on the ground. So it's actually 18. It's 18.
Yeah.
It's 18 d10. 18 d10.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 18 d10 and it's d10. So it's 99 damage. So we'll call it 100.
Oh yeah.
But of course, remember that at this level, something like a cone of cold would be doing 22 d6. So it would be doing 77. So you're doing, 20 to 25 more points of damage than the equivalent cone of cold. But you're doing it at 1,000-foot range, which for all intents and purposes doesn't really matter, but it's cool. And you're doing it at a 60-foot burst, which unless you're playing in one of my campaigns in Pathfinder 2, also probably doesn't matter. But for all intents and purposes, it's the entire battlefield. And you're doing about 100 damage across all the energy resistance types, which do get reduced by 10 each. All right. Now, the story is that Bob was really hyped to cast this spell.
Oh, yeah. I took it without a second thought.
He took it without a second thought. We're fighting something in the very end of our game. We're fighting something out of Monsters of Myth. It has immunities and resist 15s and 20s across the board. The immunities stay. The resist 15s and 20s get reduced down to 5s and 10s, but it's only 3d10. So 3d10 acid is like 15. So minus, if they had 20 resistance, if that gets reduced down to 10, but you're only doing 15 acid, they're only taking 5 acid damage. Did all that. The creature passed its save, and I think Bob did like 21 damage or something.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
The creature had like 500 hit points, and Bob did like 21 damage to the creature with the Cataclysm. It was like you should just cast Magic Missile. It was a real gut punch.
Well, usually I would just cast Magic Missile. It was at level 9, so
yes.
that was okay. But I was really hyped for this Cataclysm, and I was like, oh, it's got resistance to acid, and I think the one had like physical resistance to all bludgeoning or something. I was like, okay, that sucks. At the higher levels, there's so many resistances. This doesn't do as much as it looks like. You'd rather have one spell that does a specific type that that they're like weak against than this thing that sort of tries to mitigate it across all surfaces. And then they have resistance to fire and I don't know, light or a cold or something. And then now you're getting 2 of those reduced. Now you're back below cone of cold all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, are you ranking these against 17th level monsters? Because you see, something like this, if you cast this on things that are, I don't know, 12th or 13th level or lower.
Oh yeah.
It's like you literally are God and just destroying everyone.
What game are you playing that at 19 level you're fighting those creatures?
Well, you're not. I know. I get the point. But the point is that it's like, it's almost like these were written for that, like to show how cool they are.
Yes, I
against lower level things. But if you're gods versus fighting gods, they are balanced because that's how it works. Like it's like, yeah, they're just as strong as you, so it's not doing much.
I agree.
But same thing happens to you.
Yeah, Booth B.
They cast on you.
I still think a lot of these high level spells, especially you get the 9 or 10, a lot of them are not built for encounter play. They are built as
Yeah.
plot driving elements more than anything.
Yeah.
You're never going to cast Cataclysm in an AP.
I think if we roll it all the way back,
I mean, I would.
I think what this really has its roots in is it has its roots in first edition D&D, where when you got to the teens, your gameplay shifted from skirmish level dungeon play to armies and world and nations fighting each other. And historically, even if you look in third edition D&D or second edition D&D, a lot of the higher level spells have always been this sort of like on level equivalent, kind of like Storm of Vengeance is a classic example of this, where you're like, this is not a spell for fighting monsters of your level. It's an ability for one man or one woman or one person to take out an army with the wave of their hand, right? Where you can bring down this cataclysm and, from on top of the nearby mountain, just lay low to an entire swath of an army that's besieging your city. That's what these spells, I feel, have always been about, because it's hearkening back to that style and that time of the game where that sort of end game nation building world politic play was sort of the kind of the assumption. Anthony says this would be great in like Kingmaker. Yeah, like I completely agree. And sort of a mass battle. This feels more like a Warhammer fantasy battle spell than it does, it's us versus 3 greater pit fiends, right? Like that's the kind of encounter that we're thinking about nowadays.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking Willow. Bavmorda at the end turns the entire army into pigs.
right.
Hold on,
Except
are you
for the
talking
couple
about a
of heroes
movie
that are left.
that I have not seen?
Ooh.
Isn't that see, look, Bob, it's not me. Everybody in this chat is shaking their head right now. Even Steven was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I love Willow, and
Yes.
they're coming out with the new. I
Yeah.
can't believe they're coming out with a new series with the same characters.
I know, it's crazy.
And I'm excited.
I know.
I guess I probably should watch that.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
even worse because I know you would like it.
Yeah, you need to
It
watch
is-
that one.
it's better than you think it is.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've seen that movie over 100 times.
I saw it in the theater. I was very excited.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Cataclysm. So at the end of the day, by the way, this just does damage big. It does nothing else. It just do damage.
Can I go first then for rating?
Yeah.
A.
Wow.
Big damage, super cool. It's just everything I wanted. I just want more damage. If there was anything, I would make it more damage. But I think it's the coolest one of the 10th level spells.
Hiding it.
Bob says A. Steven.
Oh, really? Cataclysm? It's like, I think every one of these spells, it's going to be like, I think it's all going to be the same. It's going to be like the concept and flavor is like A+. The functionality, this thing could go anywhere from F to A, depending on when you're using it and what you're using it for. So I'll go in the middle. I'll say C.
C.
How
All
about
right. Donnie.
Yeah, same.
C.
Gotta go see.
Yep. Boothby.
Yeah, C for Cataclysm, but I do want to see an initiative roll at 1,000 feet encounter distance.
I did one. I did it. We did in my live stream. It was in the Agents of Edgewatch, and we had a map. It was 1,000 feet by 500 feet.
That's awesome.
The arena.
I can appreciate that. Mr. Williams.
It's a C, but it's a B if you can proc 2 or 3 of those weaknesses.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think if you could cut through it, if people have a bunch of stuff like that, I think it's a C as well. This is not for anything close to your party level, power level. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, to be truthful to you, you don't even need these type of spells to be that good, because the way the Pathfinder 2 works with the heightening spells, you could just cast Chain Lightning. You could just cast Cone of Cold, and you're going to get pretty much the same bang for your buck. And so we don't need these higher level spells to do this damage, because we do have lower level spells that we can heighten. And I think that's something I would tell to everybody as we go through these spell lists. Don't be afraid to just take Fireball and take it at 4th level and 6th level and 7th level and just have that be your damage dealing spell. So I do agree. I think it would be awesome to cast this in some sort of like big epic climatic battle moment. So I'm down for that. All right, here it is. The spell, the myth, the legend. It's Dinosaur Fort.
What book is that? Book 3?
Greatest spell in the game.
It is from
Best spell in the game right here.
It is. Ironically, yes, it is from book 3 of Quest for the Frozen Flames Adventure Path. and which of course only goes to 10th level, and this is a 10th level spell, thus
That
guaranteeing
makes no sense.
thus guaranteeing that you could never cast it. Oh, we got a $50 super chat from Rick
Damn.
Sherman. He says Willow was awesome. You need to watch it, Bob. You know what? Everyone,
We might do solo movie night where Bob just does his own reviews.
everyone's talking about movie night. We did a Patreon poll. Movie night was low on the list. People didn't want to see it, but everybody's clamoring about it. You're telling me you wouldn't want to see me and Aaron ripping into Bob for his complete utter lack of taste? Like, come on, that's gold. That is gold.
Taste.
First movie
Bob
ever.
reacts videos.
First movie ever to show morphing.
That's right. That's right. In fact, actually, Willow, if I recall correctly, was part of the film that convinced that and like T2 are what convinced Steven Spielberg to do like Jurassic Park.
Well, yeah, and also they actually did the dinosaurs and like usually actually using like stop motion and like practical, and then they did CGI, and in like 1 minute they went CGI, and that was it. They're like, we're done. We're not doing it practical. Yeah, you have to see that movie, man.
Thank you very much for that, Rick.
It's on my list.
Thank you very much for that, Rick. We'll appreciate the continued support, buddy. Rick, I think, is the newest hero of Knight's Last Call.
Rick S. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we got Dinosaur Fort. It takes 10 minutes to cast. It has a 500-foot range, and it lasts for 24 hours. And what do? You summon a big, like, King Kong Jurassic Park style fort made of dinosaur skin and teeth, which is 300 feet on each side, and each of the 4 quadrants of the fort gets a Tyrannosaurus, which is, by the way, like
it sounds so sweet so far.
which is by the way like a level 13 or 12 monster.
It's so easy to kill.
They're like
The
10.
point is, it's still cool.
Like
now,
10.
now, are you going to explain the history of Dinosaur Fort? Because that's
So this has a history?
Oh,
oh my god,
Steve and I will let you tell the history. We were just talking about this the other day.
Well, I forgot the exact history, but basically that it was supposed to be dinosaur
Form.
What was it? Form. It was dinosaur form, and somewhere it was mistakenly written as Dinosaur Fort. And I think it was like a PaizoCon or something, and people went insane because they're like, Dinosaur Fort, and it became like the talk of like the con and Paizo, and everyone's talking about it, but it was a mistake. It was supposed to be Dinosaur Form, which is also pretty damn cool, but everyone was talking about Dinosaur Fort, and it became this meme, and that everyone wanted Dinosaur Fort. So eventually, after this is going on for years, Mark Seifter, I guess, wrote this, and it is obviously in Quest for the Frozen Flame. And now Dinosaur Fort, after it's been probably 4 or 5 years, people were asking for this spell, and now the spell exists. But it is rare.
That is cool.
Yeah, it is rare.
Cool.
It lasts for
But
20.
this was literally willed into existence.
That's
by
what
the
I like
fans,
about it. It's
by
sweet.
the fans of Paizo. This did not exist except for a typo, and now we have it. So that alone is worth its weight in gold. So
So you get a fort, and it has 4 Tyrannosaurus Rexes, which are, again, I believe I said level 13. Donnie said level 10, and
10, I think.
it is 10. It is 10. The Tyrannosaurus is 10. AC 29. So like the wizard would critical hit it with his like staff. They are a dinosaur. And by the way, the dinosaurs leave you and anyone you introduce to them alone, but treat everyone else in the fort as intruders and prospective snacks.
That line right there is why this spell is S+.
That's a pretty good line.
Not
good.
that you get to pick who they don't mess with. You have to introduce them to it. So it'd be like, hey, Targo, come here. I want to introduce you to my Tyrannosaur, Tarek, right? And it's like, what? I love that.
Yeah, I mean it's 4 Tyrannosaurus Rexes in Hungry Hippo formation.
They're in a hungry.
Gosh, you're right.
Yes, it's a hungry. And by the way, there says the Tyrannosauruses won't cross into each other's territory, right? So they each stay in their quadrant, but their reach allows them to hit the middle. So yes, it's literally hungry hippos.
Oh my goodness.
not only that,
Okay.
and I'm reading this. I don't know if you realize this thing is so well written. You can tell Mark wrote it because it even has this thing where the fort doesn't harm creatures in the area where it appears. And then any creature caught inside the fort ends up unharmed and can leave without any problem. So it also is balanced in the sense that you can't use it like as a prison, like to like summon
Oh,
the
I
fort
feel like
and
you
try
should
to-
be able to use it as a prison.
I know, but they did it on but they did it on purpose. And
I mean, it's level
see
10.
why.
It's level 10, and you're summoning a 10,000 square foot fortress guarded by Tyrannosaurus, Bob.
I know,
think of the
but-
balance, Bob. Think of the balance. We can
It's
only
not even
tell.
the balance. It's not even the balance. It's just it's cool. I don't know. I kind of like it because it's meant to be like your fort. It's not meant to be a prison. See, now you can start something else. You can have Dinosaur Fortress. Now that's the one that like encompasses and keeps them inside. But if Dinosaur Fort, that's the friendly version.
Right.
Fortress is the evil version. So there.
I also feel like this is maybe a Monty Python in the Holy Grail joke. It says if it's created on a solid but unstable surface such as a swamp, roll a DC 3 flat check each day the fort is present, and on a failure, the fort sinks or collapses sometime during the day. You know, where it's like, we have the strongest fort, but that one sank. But then we built another one, and that one sank, fell over, and burned down. And so we built a third one, and that's what you're getting, lad. The strongest fort in this swamp.
Yes,
she has the
there's
dinosaurs.
so much in this.
The dinosaurs have huge tracts of land.
There's a lot in this. There's a lot of going on.
Pretty sweet spell, like especially flavor wise. Like obviously you're not doing it in battle because you have to cast it for 10 minutes, but it's kind of sweet.
All right, Boothby.
Should have been a ritual.
I mean, yeah, it should 100% been a ritual.
Boothby, score.
Oh, I must go with the will of the peoples and give it an S.
Okay, Donnie.
Higher.
Oh,
Score.
absolutely, yes.
Steven.
Well, you have S and S plus and S plus plus. Has anything ever gotten an S plus or S plus plus?
Yeah.
Yes, slow.
Oh well, yeah, there you go. Well, that's just broken. That's not fair.
S plus is broken.
Actually,
Why it's there.
S plus was created for slow. S plus plus was created for slow, heightened to level 6 when it could target up to 10 people.
Oh well, in that case, then yeah, it's at least an S.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Bob.
I don't think it's S, but I think it's A. It's awesome. I would have had this. I would have casted this instead of Cataclysm. I think this is super fun.
Well, the casting time is 10 minutes, so you would have had a long, fun time.
You're
with
right.
doing that.
You know, right? I probably would never have casted it, but I think it's an A.
And Mr. Williams.
GMS.
Oh, okay. He says a GMS.
I mean, I don't know if any players really cast this. It seems like a GM thing, right?
No, I don't think it's an anything.
Are you casting this in our AP?
So here's the problem we have. We have like 4 S's, an A, and then Derek gives it an F.
I knew it.
How could you give this an F?
It's so
It
much
does
fun.
nothing.
What are you
Yes,
talking
it
about? It
does.
creates 4
Yes, it
dinosaurs,
does.
a
It
fort,
does.
which is super cool.
It does nothing.
It does a lot.
It does nothing.
It does
I
a
think it's
lot. It
awesome.
does. It gives you the wonder of fantasy. It brings you
Fun
back
and
to
joy.
I would have made the dinosaurs stronger, but other than that, I think
Yeah.
it's sweet.
To Derek's point, it really is just like a Mordenkainen's mansion, but worse.
Yeah, it way worse.
It needs velociraptors with pikes. And
I mean, what this really comes down to is, you know, and this is something I've learned from this channel, from this community, from this Patreon. There exists what I will call an overwhelming majority of people who only do things in life to troll and for the meme quality. And then there is this small percentage of us that actually care about things being epic and cool. And
Epic and cool. You create a dinosaur fort. That is super epic and cool.
okay, then there's Bob. That's the last part. That's the last part of it. Right, Bob. Why not just give him flick maces and put him on roller skates? Like
That's what I don't know about roller skates, but I would give them something that would equal a flick mace. And they can reach across the dang room. They're a hungry hippo.
So there's 2 things of this, which total entropy is right. All right, I'm going to bow to the will of the people. I'm not going to give it an S, but I will give it an A because I do lower it, and Bob gave it an A. We could have that as a tip goal for Quest for the Frozen Flame. Total entropy says, I think the party needs to get a scroll of this in Quest for the Frozen Flame. So that could be a high-end tip goal.
We get scrolls in Quest?
Yeah, of course.
Magic is so rare and like... just find a random scroll of dinosaur fort laying around seems a little odd.
And Luke says, but Derek, can't things be both? You can be kind of silly and epic, but they're not mutually exclusive. Look, it comes down to this. It's like I've used this story a lot. Climate change is very serious, and scientific research is very important. And the United Kingdom built this revolutionary, amazing, incredible floating scientific laboratory in order to go study, heating, global warming, the effect on Arctic ice, on water levels, on sea concentration. And it was this, incredible expedition. And they, and of course, very famously put it to a vote. And if you think that the population of the Earth named it Bodie McBoatface is great or is awesome, then we are not operating on the same level, right? Like it'd be the same people who would have, named the Apollo space program, I don't know, Cheeseburger Express, right? Like I just, to me, it's like the new moon program is named Artemis. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Number one, it's even better than Apollo because Artemis is the goddess of the moon. But two, she's the twin sister of Apollo. So it's like a great name. But instead of calling it, I don't know, To the Moon, I don't know what they would have named it. Something stupid. All right. Anyways. Boothby, you're pointing out the fundamental flaw with the spell. Oh, well, the T-Rexes don't have range attacks. That's all right. Just give them guns. Give them, you know what? If they had lasers mounted on their heads, then maybe we'd be talking. Get some Starfinder in there. All right. I'm done with the spell. All right. Hey. All right. Element embodied. Turn into a massive elemental. So this is from Secrets of Magic. It's only primal. Polymorph. So remember, it's probably going to be a battle form. Yep, it's a battle form. So remember, you are out of your magic if you're casting this. You draw upon the deepest wells of magic and you choose an elemental form: air, earth, fire, or water. Your form is gargantuan. And you have to have enough space or the spell is lost.
That's cool.
So that is 4 squares by 4 squares. You get AC 25 plus your level, same as Avatar. You get 30 temporary hit points, same as Avatar. You get dark vision, same as Avatar. Your attack bonus is plus 34, which is 1 less than Avatar. And you get an acrobatics modifier of plus 36 or an athletics modifier of plus 36, depending on what elemental you are, which is 1 higher than Avatar. So you're giving up 1 point of attack roll for 1 more point of athletics. Cool.
No, it's 1 higher on attack roll.
Oh, it was the Avatar. Avatar was 33?
Yeah.
Get fucked, Avatar. So it's a better attack roll, and you get a better athletics check. And you get 4 elemental forms. The air elemental flies, and it has an emanation that makes it difficult terrain for flying creatures. Your movement doesn't trigger reactions. You have a melee attack with a 25-foot reach, and you yourself have a 20-foot reach because you're gargantuan, which does 3d12 plus 11 damage and pushes. You also get a lightning lash up to 80 feet. The earth elemental moves pretty slow, but has resistance 5 to all physical. Has a 30-foot emanation that makes the area difficult terrain and hazardous terrain. Everybody takes 5 points of damage for every square they move through. And you get 40 temporary hit points instead of 30 temporary hit points. The fire makes you have a fire aura. Everybody takes 5d6 damage. You get to burn people and catch them on fire with persistent fire damage. And then the water elemental, water that is part of you or that you're touching becomes difficult terrain for swimming creatures, and you do some 3d12 plus 18 bludgeoning damage, which is a pretty good amount of damage. 3d12 plus 18 is fairly comparable to a high level fighter because you'll have like you'll have a 7 ability score. If you're a fighter, you'll be legendary, so greater weapon specialization is plus 8. So a fighter does plus 15 base. So this is doing plus 18. Okay.
This is better than the other one we just read.
It is absolutely better than the other one we just read.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger form, more better attack, more damage, more useful abilities. But you are shutting off all of your spell casting.
Well, then
so did the other one.
Avatar versus Elemental embodiment battle, and 2 large forms beating the crap out of each other for no reason.
Not large, gargantuan and huge.
Gargantuan. Sorry.
So
speak in this one.
Let's take a look here. No, you don't even have hands. So you can't take manipulate actions, you can't speak, and you can't cast spells.
Whatever. I still think it's better.
Never mind, by the way, that you have an ability called like Earth Fist, but somehow you
have a hand. You just can't manipulate.
So
what do we give Avatar?
Avatar got a D.
Yeah, this is got to be 1 step up from that.
I think it's 1 step up.
I think it's 1 step up from that as well. I mean, I think you're if you're a high level druid and you cast a spell, you're going to be able to punch, kick. You're going to be able to smash people in the face, and I would only cast this spell if, as a player, it might not be as fun on a VTT, but if we're playing in person and I had access to a actual gargantuan elemental model, and when I cast the spell, I had the ability to just go ka-chunk and just like throw that bad boy down.
Well, that's
onto
the flavor
battlement.
that Steven was talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's that cool, epic thing. But I mean, I just think at level 20, 19 here, we should be, editing that polymorph with some little bit of text in here, because that's just killing half these two spells in general.
But you have to remember, they don't want it to be, hey, look at the caster who now took the level 10 feat that gave them 2 10th level spells, and now 2 fights a day, aka maybe 66% or 100% or 50% of all the battles that you're going to fight today is suddenly better than the fighter or the barbarian or the monk, right? Like that is the 3rd edition problem, right? Where the wizard casts a spell and suddenly they are better at fighting than the fighter. And the balance is, oh, but it's a limited resource. The fighter can go all day. And then you go, yeah, but how often does that actually happen? How often do you actually do 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 encounters in a day? You don't. In fact, what you do is the wizard goes, fighter's like, hey, I'm at full hit points and I don't have any daily abilities. And the wizard goes, yeah, but I cast my level 2 level 10 spells. Can we go sleep?
Yeah, but can you just edit that and say once a day you can use this transmutation spell, and polymorph allows you to use spells and speak and...
Right, but then you're getting your cake and eating it too. But
that's what's cool at level 10.
Well, yeah, but then why be a fighter?
I don't think that they have to surpass fighters. They should be as good as they were before they cast the spell, though. And you're not.
And you're not. And because you're paying, the price you're paying is for for a druid or a cleric or whatever to be an effective meleeer via a spell, they have to pay the price. They have to pay the price. Because otherwise they are going to invalidate your melee DPS. And so you're paying that price in versatility. We see that, by the way, with the kineticist, and we see it with like the psychic, where their abilities are really cool because they can do them all the time. But if you look at the damage of them, they're ridiculously low. Oh, London just attacked for $5. Thank you, London. Knights of Last Call, slowly but surely going down.
I'm gonna have to add this and make you the monster on my channel.
It'll be dead in a minute.
That'll be your best tip channel.
That's gonna be my best one. Whatever you're on, Derek, I'm gonna make you the monster, and everyone can tip and kill you.
London says I roll minimum damage against the boss. I'm fine putting this at C. Again, I think it works, and it's got enough advantages over Avatar that I think you'll be happy with it. All right, Fabricated.
Well, I didn't get to say anything.
Oh, sorry.
It's a C because it's especially a C because Primal is the damage dealing spell. So that's its whole thing. So getting a spell on there that just doesn't do damage is not as a bad when it comes to the Primal.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. I just think that at the end of the day, you're giving up your ability to cast heal. You're giving your ability up to cast all these other really great spells. I mean, that is a pretty significant price. All right, Fabricated Truth is our next spell. It's from a cult only. It's got incapacitation, but the good news is we're running out of creatures that could be higher level than you. So that's the good news.
No, I feel like I fought every one of them.
That is true. Aaron went pretty deep, and he found some high level ones there. It's 3 actions, 100 feet, up to 5 creatures. They make a will saving throw. Choose a single statement that you want the targets to believe. The fact could be narrow, such as a dragon is circling overhead and it wants to kill me. It could be wide-reaching, such as all humanoids are disguised abominations. Or it could be conceptual, such as if I don't live a kinder life, I will be punished in the afterlife. The target's experiences color how they react to this truth and how their behavior changes. If the statement changes what they perceive, they will treat the change as a sudden revelation. The effect of the spell depends on their will save. If a sub-target is already subject to a fabricated truth, then your spell will try to counteract it, and if the counteract check fails, the outcome of the saving throw can't be worse than a success. If you critically succeed, if the target critically succeeds, they do not believe you, and they know you tried to trick it. If they succeed, they don't believe you, but they don't realize that you tried to trick it. If they fail, they believe you for a week. And if they critically fail, they believe you for an unlimited duration.
I feel like you did something similar to this when we took control of one of those ogres in Rise of the Rune Lords.
No,
that
was just
he did a suggestion.
Yeah, and he critically failed his will save, so it lasted for like an hour.
Yeah, you basically made it believe a truth. And that was like way lower level. And that felt pretty cool and awesome. Now at 10th level, we're sort of doing it. I mean, the idea is really cool, but I feel like it should, I don't know.
I love this spell.
Actually, this spell I think works in a lot of ways because, like, at a role-playing point of view, like this is great because you're like, okay, you have this evil tyrant who's literally brainwashed the populace using the spell, and it actually can work. Like this actually at 17th, 18th level, like this can go
It does
off.
5 creatures too, which is nice.
Yeah, like this actually is a very good chance of going off, and it can suddenly make a very tough fight quite simple.
It can make a very tough fight on your side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those rare spells that is really good as a role-playing spell and as an encounter spell.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
this
right.
actually
You're
is-
right.
This is a very good spell.
I actually agree with that. I mean, obviously it has incapacitation, but I don't think we can shit on it too much for that because obviously you don't want to go up to like the guy that's 4 levels higher than you and just incapacitate them. But if you go into like a fight and there's like 4 people, remember, they could be your level. Hell, if you got this at 19th level, it's level 10 spell. This could work on level 20 monsters, which are 1 level higher than you and not trigger incapacitation because it's tied to the spell level, not to your level. 3 elite guards of Karzug, and you go, you give them a belief like Karzug is evil and must be overthrown. All right, they failed their will saves. Okay, yeah, for the next week, they are pro the party, let's take out the big bad.
Yeah, my party did you're off work, it's time for you to go home for a week.
I mean, for the role playing, especially as to Donnie's point, I think that really can come into handy. I'm thinking of like an in-city mission where there's politics involved and you can sort of change the tide of politics in a way. It can be really fun and really intriguing.
Right, because if a creature is, let's say, 3 or 4 lower levels lower than you, they're going to be critically failing this a lot. So, at that level, 3 or 4, you're a high level character. You might be 19th level, but the king is still the king. But the king might only be 13th level, or the emperor might only be 11th level, and you just go and convince the entire small council of Game of Thrones that
I'm the king now.
Bran should be king, or you're the king, right? And they're all going to critically fail, so they're going to believe it forever. I agree. I think the spell has a lot of potential, kind of across the board. So I agree with it being pretty strong for sure. And and it targets 5 creatures right off the bat. And it even has a reasonable range.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was wondering if you're counting the range because you're used to like if it's 30 feet, it's ridiculous. Like how close do I have to be here?
Anthony says this is definitely a spell that allows for shenanigans, which gives it a positive points. All right, we'll go around the horn. We'll start with Mr. Williams. We'll start with you this time, buddy.
That's an 8-tier spell.
A-tier spell from Mr. Williams. Bob.
I have to agree. I didn't think so really at first, but as you guys were talking more about it, I really like the role playing aspect. I think at least an A. This actually could be pretty fun.
Mr. Glicker.
It's at least an A. It might even be an S, but I'll say A.
Yeah. All right, I agree. Donnie.
Yeah, it's easily an A.
Yeah.
And I'm with Steven. I think it could almost be an S.
And Boothby.
I'm pushing an S. It was so much fun.
See, and you've actually
play,
casted it, and I have never, and that's why I think I wonder, like, after seeing it casted, like, does it really bring it home? You know what I mean?
It can, yeah. I mean, it only came up a couple times. It's a 10 level spell, so you're not casting them very too often towards the end of the game. But when it was cast, it was hilariously fun.
Normally, we penalize things for having the incapacitation trait, but this does target 5 people, and so I'm okay to not penalize it too much. So I'm going to put it at A, but I'm going to say it's very high. I'm not going to put it S just because it is incapacitation. But I do have a question. I've saw it before, how I was really initially excited with Pathfinder because I thought, oh, look at this. They have all these rules in the game for using diplomacy and intimidation against players to change their attitudes. Oh, but there's this little thing in the back of the book that says that those checks can never be used to change players' attitude. You're playing a game. You're 13th level, you're 14th level, you're high level, you're kicking ass, you're casting chain lightning, you're casting cloud leaps, you're a legend in your weapons. You are the badass heroes of legend. And then the high level kind of evil occultic caster, who is the sort of big bad evil of the campaign, either gets their hand on a scroll or they're just high enough level that they can cast this spell. And they cast this spell on your party. And you all critically fail to save. And the GM tells you that you now believe a truth that is, the good king must be overthrown at all costs. He is the enemy and blah, blah, blah. And everybody critically fails their save. Is that a dick move or is that awesome?
That is not awesome.
Awesome.
That is awesome in theory. That is not awesome at the table in play.
I think it would change the campaign dynamics. And as long as I'm still playing the game or playing a character, and now instead of the BBEG, now the king is the bad guy. Okay, now we're gonna fight him. Sounds cool to me. As long as I still level up and get stronger.
You would really have to have the right party for that to be awesome.
That point is fair.
Donnie?
Yeah. I mean, if it's my group, the group that I've played with the past 20 years, yeah, that's totally happening. But if it's a pickup game, right? If it's with some of the knights that I haven't played with before, no, that's a dick move.
Well, I would do it for sure on some of the knights I've barely played with.
Well, yeah.
I would find a way to use it against the player's allies. That would be more fun for the group.
That could be real intriguing for like a role playing aspect.
Now the king hates you. Now.
Yeah. Why did he change? He met one time with that cleric.
Yeah.
Steven, I know you have a long-term group, and I know you guys get into some shenanigans.
This would never work. It doesn't matter because they know I would figure out a way to bring it back on them. So it would be like, okay, you did that great. He was a puppet. The bad guy's actually behind the throne, and he's going to kill you anyhow. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's going to be on. It doesn't matter if you do that. It won't disrupt at least my games. And exactly what you said. It's like, oh, they met with the king, and now suddenly he believes all these things. They brainwashed him, killed him. It's like it just won't work, at least in my games. So,
all right. I mean, I do think it's an interesting component that in a game where like autonomy, because there was like a big thing there, not so much recently. I think we've been worried about other things, but about 5 years ago or 7 years ago, there was a really big push about how like charm spells and suggestion spells and dominate spells were actually far more evil than necromancy spells, say, because right, you're just completely. It's like that one guy from the Jessica Jones show, right? Like that guy was unbelievably disturbing. The guy that could
Purple Man,
who just had utter control over basically everyone and everything.
Yeah.
That was a good season one.
He was much
Jessica
worse
Jones
in the
was
comic.
awesome.
In the
I
comic,
was just
he
really
was
surprised
really
to see Doctor
scary.
Who there.
Yeah.
All right, Fated Confrontation is next. It's 120 feet, and it's a 3-action spell. You, one willing ally and one enemy. Boy, you weave the threads of fate to lead these foes into climatic battle. The targets of this spell become fated opponents. One of the targets must be you or a willing ally, and the other must be an enemy. When you cast the spell, the ally you targeted may teleport to any unoccupied space of their choice within 30 feet of their targeted opponent. You isolate the targets for 1 round. During this time, fate refuses to allow either fated opponent to be affected by attacks or effects from a third party. A fated opponent could be affected by the other's meteor swarm, its own heal, but it would be entirely immune to spells or strikes from creatures outside of the spell effects, as well as any damage from the hazard or the environment. Hey, we got a $20 super chat from Scratch Paper Games, coming in strong with his awesome Dungeon Master avatar. I've really enjoyed this series. What's next in line? Good question, Scratch Paper Games. We'll get to that in a minute. For the duration of the spell, either fated opponent can manipulate fate once on each of its turn. That allows it to either roll twice and take the higher result on an attack roll or skill check against its fated opponent, or force the fated opponent to roll twice on a saving throw against abilities and take the lower results. So in other words, you can either give you a hero point or you can give the opponent an anti-hero point. And it lasts for 1 minute. Thoughts?
I'm just trying to figure out what this thing is even doing.
Basically it's maze. It's maze. That's what it is.
But
like
it's trapping it's trapping one of your allies in the maze
Correct.
with them.
Or you, but you can avoid the hazard, which is kind of nice.
It's maze, but it
It's
allows you to just let the fighter tee off on whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no save.
Yeah, there's no save.
It's every other player in your party went AFK.
This is an
For an
interesting
hour.
spell because people love maze. And maze is very strong. And you're like, oh my God, maze is so good. And then you look at it like this and you're like, oh, maybe it's not so good. But I think you then look at it as a maze spell where you can put two an ally and a bad guy together in the maze and like fight, and that's it. And like
so my fighter and the enemy.
Yeah.
Well, so there's no save, and also, by the way, not only that, but remember, once on each of its turns, they can either get a roll twice to take higher, or force their opponent to roll twice and take lower. And by the way,
that part's pretty cool.
And it's either
gargantuan.
Either fated opponent, by the way.
Yeah,
so
it's like a plus minus 5.5.
Exactly. So what that means is that everybody in there is going to be, doing their best. Like the fighters are going to be critting, the spellcasters are going to be making their opponents critical fail, or at least fail. Obviously,
a 5.5 is basically almost a guaranteed crit fail, guaranteed crit.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very strong.
And not only that, it's not like, if they're higher level than you, you're not going to throw your level 19 fighter in with the level 24 boss. That's just going to be game over, right? But like, if there's like an on-level foe, you could like if there's like a 3-person encounter, you just lock your fighter in with their cleric or something and just watch your fighter go to town.
Yeah, you can't do this like against like an elite monster, like a dragon or titan or something. No way, you would get destroyed. But against,
so is it only for 1 round though?
1 minute.
It says the duration is 1 minute, but I do think this where it says you isolate the targets for 1 round. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, well, they're in the maze for 1 round. After that, they come out, and then they have the hero point thing for the rest of the minute.
Oh,
is that how you're reading it?
That's how.
Oh, yeah, you might be right.
For the duration of the spell while it's going on. So they're only in the maze.
If they're only in the maze for 1 round, then I lower the spell's rating. If
if it's a 1 round maze and then it's a 1 minute with the rest of the stuff, then it's not as good.
Yeah, it's not as good. I think
it's still good, but it's just not as good. Yeah,
I can see that because I can see it because it's too strong, almost a 1 minute maze.
I would agree.
Especially you can
it is level 10
and everything.
It is level 10.
It is level 10. Yeah.
And there's no save.
And there is no save. So, but seeing as how it only isolates you for 1 round, now remember, everybody's talking about the free True Strike effect. Remember, your ally and the opponent both get a free True Strike.
Well, it's going to be an interesting fight.
So it's going to be it's just going to be haymakers, haymakers, haymakers. I say it's a C.
I think it's better than that.
Okay.
I think it's B. I don't think it's as good as the last couple of things we looked at when we ranked A, but I think it's pretty cool. No save. You're going to get your fighter to just drop that big crit on them. I think that's pretty sweet. You want it to happen. You talk about it going up to the fight. We can just crit them. We can like start this, whirlwind. Again, I know the duration, we can't even affect them until after the duration's done, but I think it's pretty good.
Steven?
I think a B. If it was a true maze, I'd make it an A, but
I agree. That's where I was originally thinking it was going to be. It was an A.
But I think it's a B because put it this way, I like chaos. I love chaos in my games. I can't get enough of it. There's a lot of chaos in the spell, and it can go either way. And I love spells like this. So
Donnie.
C. I don't like the advantage disadvantage. It's just going to cancel each other out essentially. Because both of them can do it. It's only C.
Boothby.
Yeah, C. But I don't like the spell. I don't know any of my players that would like the spell.
And Mr. Williams.
It's a C unless it's B with a fighter against a spellcaster.
Fighter against a spellcaster. Again, I would say this too, by the way. You're like, haha, we're going to fight. And then like the high level, like Magus or whatever like that you're fighting as a single target. It's like a bunch of 16th level party members versus a level 20 monster as a boss. And he casts this the first round and then locks himself into combat with like your caster on the first round. And like you can't affect him and he just goes to town on him. And you're like, oh, well, that was kind of cool. I guess it was a fated confrontation. It's a good thing that the GM just critically hit our only healer for 255 points of damage and he's dead. All right, I'm going to put it, we had 3 C's, and so C's it is, 4 C's, it's going to be C it is. All right, moving on. We have Gate, which is a weird one.
Do you want to talk about the
what's
super
next?
Chat that came in?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next? Yeah, so what's next in line is for Thursday, we are probably going to not immediately jump into another Spells Ranked series. We are going to try to maybe go back to more things like this, like what you're seeing tonight, more conversational topics about role-playing games, about role-playing game philosophy, about how to take different game elements and make your Pathfinder 2 or your 5th edition or even just your other role-playing games better. Kind of talk about concepts like what makes a boss fight good? What are mechanics that we could use from Dungeon World to make Pathfinder 2 better? Is there a way that you can add tactical combat to Powered by the Apocalypse game? Like, I think we really want to kind of sort of move away a little bit from like the hard, crunchy mechanical rating system. Not only that, for me personally, it'll just be a nice break and sort of try to get back to some of like the old nightlife topics that we used to do. And I also I love having guests. It started with Vin and then Vin and Edril, and now today you see these folks. And I think that's a lot of fun as well. So I think that's what we're going to be using at least the Thursdays for the time being. All right. So next is Gate. And Gate creates Gate's been around in the game forever. You tear open a rift to another plane. You can sustain it for a minute, and creatures could travel from either direction. It's a vertical circular portal with a radius of 40 feet. But if you attempt to create a gate into or out of the realm of a deity or another powerful being, that being can prevent the gate from forming. Full stop. So if you want to, let's say, we want to invade hell from Golarion, and we are going to march on the capital of Asmodeus's domain, and we have assembled the army of light, and we're like, we'll cast Gate, Doctor Strange style, Sling Ring style, and we will march our armies through to hell. Well, it's going to form in his domain, and Asmodeus is going to go, no. So what does the spell do then?
Not in my house. Didn't we? And also, wasn't it you had to be like willing to go through it? Or was that? I remember we were trying to break it during our game at home.
No, it's basically you create a doorway that you could travel through in either direction.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game balancing type spell. This is like one of those.
Isn't this how we got rid of the Trask?
Yeah, but
yeah.
Yes, it was.
But this basically, it's one of these spells like they need to put it in, and it is a role playing type spell that you need for storytelling, and just the history of D&D and Pathfinder. Is it? It's 10th level because I think it has to be. It can't be 9th level. It has to be something incredibly rare that only the most powerful of powerful beings can cast. So, again, this is one of these like flavors and history. It's an S, but it's so niche that
yes.
it's almost like a D in the sense that when you need it's not even a D. It's either an S. You know how they do with the rankings in Magic the Gathering, this like with the cards,
right,
Derek, and they were like, it's either an A or an F,
right?
It's one or the other. This is literally an A or an F. That's right. It's you either use it or you don't.
And that's why I would grade this as a D, and then I would grade
scroll it.
I would no, you wouldn't cast this. You would. I just need a gate. I would cast it as a D, and I would put it as like a GMS, right?
Okay,
because like GM is usually what we reserve for sort of like plot forward moving spells in order to make the game function effectively, but like as like a tactical spell on a day-to-day basis, you're never going to use this, and it's just not going to come up a lot. So
it'll never come up, except in the rare case that you actually have, and the GM will know this. It's like, oh, I need to go to this other dimension, so like you literally then make them get the spell so they can go there.
Right. That's why it's like a GM spell, Right, it's also, by the way, historically the mortal realm, whatever, Earth, Golarion, Faerun, whatever, is not the home of a powerful deity or, a powerful being. And so, extra other creatures can form gates and transport their armies to the material plane, right? So it works really well that way, as a MacGuffin to get, the evil armies into, the mortal realm. So
classic Baylor move, right?
Yeah,
beating in other beings. So
exactly. All right, the next one is a very interesting spell. It's a very interesting spell.
So what do we rate it?
D.
You didn't ask anyone else. You asked me.
No, that's a locked in D. It's a D, and it's a D.
Derek's stamp of approval or disapproval.
It's a D. It's rated a D, and it's a GMS.
There you go.
Okie dokie.
Whether you agree or not.
All right, Bob. What would you change it to?
C. Scroll.
What scroll? Why would you make this into a scroll?
Wasn't that what George did in our at home campaign?
George did that.
Yes, and I thought it was perfect for the situation that we had, and it worked out well. And that was the only reason that we did it. And I think that alone was good for that exact scenario, but never to have it as in your spell list.
All right. You mean the scenario that was like totally fabricated and made up, and the points didn't matter?
That is how every fantasy game is. So
not Pathfinder 2.
Whatever.
Indestructibility, level 10. All 4 traditions, 2 actions, and it lasts until the start of your next turn. You cannot be affected by anything unless you choose to be. For the duration of the spell, you are immune to any effect or damage that would harm you, excluding things from artifacts or deific power level sources.
I think you skipped one.
Did I?
Hero's Defiance.
Oh.
Right?
No.
Focus spell.
Wait a second.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's a focus spell.
It's focus spell.
Get your focus spells out of here.
All right.
Sorry.
Indestructibility. Cheese of Ages in the chat from Roll for Combat fame says indestructibility is a Z. All right, so all right. So you get 2 actions and you can't be harmed by anything for exactly 1 round.
1 round, that's it?
Yep. It lasts until the start of your next turn.
But it's only 2 actions to cast.
Yeah, so you have 1 action.
I might as well cast
cool.
time spot. Stop.
The only corner case, or not even corner case, the only valid use I've seen for this is 2 action Indestructibility, 1 action Retributive Strike for your Staff of the Magi. That's the only valid use I've seen really postulate.
I don't know. You take this spell, you like grab like, I don't know, orb of annihilation and just start running.
I mean, to be fair, it does say it excludes effects from artifacts and deific power. So I think your Staff of the Mad Guy and it doesn't do that.
Can't even do that. You can't even, they thought of everything.
They thought of everything. They thought of everything. They thought of it all. I have no idea how to rate this spell. I'm not going to lie. This spell is either like incredible or it's horrible.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know the circumstance when it's incredible.
Staff of the Magi, not an artifact, by the way.
Oh,
I
okay.
would say it's a D because it's far too situational for 10th level.
Yeah, so it could be a D, but Anthony says, so it's not really indestructibility. That's true.
Indestructible, timely.
Austin says it should just be a free action, so you just get 1 free turn to do whatever you want. Yes, 100%. Or at least it should be 1 action, right? I think either one of those would have been totally fine. It's level 10.
If it was 1 action, that would be pretty cool.
You could literally never have more than 2 of these. And if
I guess everyone's hasted by now.
And if you're, yeah, but you can only use that to stride or strike. You can't use it to cast another spell.
Yeah, so it should be 1 action. Then it'd be sweet.
But it's not. So they basically made this so you can't cast this and another spell, right? Because like the idea of the mage, I don't know, casting something and then casting Indestructibility, going into the middle of the heart of the monsters, and then I don't know, doing something awesome. Like that's really cool, but it's priced out of that. The action price is out of that. So
yeah, and you have 1 action to do something cool, and then your party has to try and save you from what you just did before your turn comes back up.
Right. So what this, and somebody was complaining about the Marvel references, and I couldn't tell if they were being
oh gosh, I hope not, because that's all. I mean, I'm wearing my Marvel wedding ring. That's all I'm about.
I hope they weren't being serious, but like this,
they can see me on the DMs.
This spell is like the first Avengers movie where Tony Stark takes the nuclear weapon, out into space and through the portal before it blows up so he could save Earth. But then, he survives. Oh, how did he survive? Well, like in D&D terms, you would cast Indestructibility, right? Like this would be like if you were playing a D&D campaign and you were fighting in the cracks of doom and Gollum got the ring and you go, screw it, Indestructibility. And then you're like, you just like throw yourself down into the lava of Mount Doom to destroy the ring. And then you don't die. You get to, crawl your way out of the lava before, the end of the start of your next turn or whatever. So like, I don't think it's a combat spell because it takes 2 actions.
I guess I just don't know. I've barely played enough high level, and I didn't do anything like this.
I don't understand it.
I don't think it's useless. I think I just don't know enough about it. So I guess I would go D, but I could be easily swayed if someone gave me a great scenario.
So D from Bob. I think
Yeah.
D from Damien. Donnie.
F. F. This is another casters can't have fun move by.
I mean, it's true.
Boothby.
I'm thinking D. I mean, yeah, the instances where this would be useful are few and far between, but it could be really cool if it worked out for you.
Steven.
Strangely, my group would love this spell, and they would use it all the time. So, for my group, I'd actually think it's like kind of a B, believe it or not.
What are they using it
Yeah,
for,
what would they
though?
do?
Because they're very good at edge cases, and they would figure out. I just don't know how they're very good at figuring out like using this and then turning it into something else, and like figuring out like Rube Goldberg way to make this work. They're very good at that,
and that's exactly.
Right, and that's what it's for. I think for them, I think I think it's a B. Like my group.
SC Voldo, SC Voldo in the chat says.
Rich in the chat.
Rich in the chat says, I might be thinking old school D&D, but this would be a great spell to have ready. I agree. If you're just thinking about this spell from like the concept of like DPR calculations, I don't think this spell does anything. But I think if you're thinking about this from like a shenanigans perspective, if you had one turn, like with a haste, it's like you get 2 actions.
Exactly. My guys, they would figure out. My guys actually get haste on their monks, so that's 5 attacks, and they would figure out shenanigans with this spell. Like I can see it already.
And
so.
I will also say
I could, like I said, I could be easily swayed if
also,
someone can figure it out.
There's also like a soft fudge component to this, which is like if you cast this spell and then you put yourself in a situation where like the monster or the boss, the big bad, like the GM goes, oh, I don't know that you're indestructible, and I just use all my attacks on you, and you just eat up the entire creature's turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's what I'm saying. It's like they're very good at that. Exactly. Like they will literally do the fastball special, take someone, throw them at the monster, give them
another
haste.
Marvel reference.
Yeah, and then then literally you eat an entire turn of the monster. That's at these levels where every single attack, not even every round, every attack, every action counts. I actually think this is better than you think. At least for my group, I can see them using this very.
I would have a blast trying to find those cases myself, but there are
I
more consistently useful things that
I would agree with that, but I think the power of this spell is too high. When it just, in Pathfinder 2, when it doesn't say, oh, you get to counteract it. No, it just says you are immune. It finally gets there. It took us 19 levels, but it finally just makes us immune. I'm okay giving this a C, just because I think that...
Interesting.
I think it's actually a lot better. I think you have to look for
It's interesting to see the difference in like your voting versus everyone else's voting. Like Dinosaur for F.
Miracle.
Derek has no joy in his heart.
Miracle. So same thing as Alter Reality, but it's the divine list.
Well, we know that wishes are better than miracles,
right? And we know that Miracle is probably not as good as Alter Reality. But look at the good news. It's a divine spell that lets you cast arcane spells of 7th level lower. And a 10th level divine slot is probably about equivalent to a 7th level arcane slot. So this from the perspective of divine, this might be one of the best divine spells in the game.
I am going to actually interject here because there's one good reason for Miracle that the other spell lists don't have. It's a cost-free resurrection in the right situation. So Miracle is, I think it holds its own for that reason alone.
Oh, that's true. It does duplicate a spell, so you can duplicate a lower level. You could duplicate a 9th level spell of Raise Dead, and not have to pay technically the GP costs. Or, as strategy said, you could cast Slow 6.
well, S+ tier then.
S+ tier then.
I think it's D. I mean, I read the last one D after this. I don't want to cast things that cast things lower.
I will not put this lower than C, but Boothby, Donnie?
Yeah, C.
C?
Yeah.
C.
Steven?
Yeah, C, it's fine.
Yeah.
It is an interesting case that he brings up though with the free resurrection.
No, it's very but granted, at this point in the game you have so much money. Who knows?
If you're a cleric and you let your party die that you need to use Miracle for Raise Dead, you have failed your job.
You have 29 free heal spells a day. What are you doing?
You have 30 hit points from your avatar form. What were you doing?
All right, Nature's Incarnate. I thought we already had this, but oh no, that was Elemental. This is another high level, 10th level battle form where you become an incarnation of battle form.
Kaiju.
You either become a medium-sized green man or a gargantuan 30 foot by 30 foot. That's 6 squares by 6 squares for a kaiju. So you either turn into like a Tom Bombadil. You either turn into Tom Bombadil or you turn into Godzilla.
Only one of those will fit in a dungeon.
And by the way, you do have to have enough space or it is lost. Note, you don't get any hands, you don't get any mouths, and you definitely can't cast spells. But you do get the beast trait. All right, the AC is 25 plus your level, standard boilerplate. We've seen this before. 30 temporary hit points, and you get a plus 34 attack, which, as we said before, was still 1 point higher than Avatar, which was plus 33. And you get an athletics of plus 36. So you're large and in charge. Let's be honest with you. I understand that the Green Man is written, but if you cast a spell at any point in time in your campaign and you don't choose the kaiju, what is wrong with you?
Oh yeah, I skipped right past Green Man.
What happened to you that you are so hurt? The kaiju has 50-foot speed, resistance 5 to all physical damage. It has 30-foot reach jaws that do 6d10 plus 10 piercing. And it has claws, which are agile, 68 plus 8. It has a foot smash, which is 15 foot 8, that does 66 plus 10. It is unstoppable. You are immune to being immobilized. You ignore difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. And you get the trample action for 3 actions. You can move double your speed through smaller creatures, aka huge or smaller, and you get to trample all of them, making a basic reflex save against your spell DC, which is okay, or take your foot damage.
Why couldn't the kaiju be that instead of environmental hazard?
Yeah,
because that's sweet.
You'd have to ask.
I mean, I would ramp
Patrick
it up
Rennie.
a bit, but this sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds pretty good.
I think this is so fun and cool. This is what I thought the kaiju in the Monsters of Myth book was going to be, something along these lines, and then it wasn't.
Right.
It's funny to me how weak the Green Man is compared to the kaiju.
Yeah, I didn't even read it, but I'm sure it's horrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can get people clumsy. That's cool.
Green Man has a ranged attack.
I mean, look.
But that one's unstoppable.
If you're going up against a level 24 Solar, you're probably not casting this spell anyways. But if the GM throws a bunch of level 18 devils or demons at you at high level, and you're like level 20, and there's like 4 or 6 level 18 monsters, and it's like a severe encounter, and you go, you know what? I want to have some fun. All right, I've been turning into T-Rex this whole game. I'm going to turn into Godzilla, and I'm just going to go to town, and I am going to just smash, Hulk smash, and I'm going to turn into this big kaiju. Is it impressive? No, not really. Are you losing out all your spells? Yeah, you sure are. But you get to be really, really big. The damage is pretty impressive. And the attack bonus is on par. Your AC is on par. The fact that the kaiju doesn't get... See, again, I shouldn't write... If I ever write a game, don't allow anything I write, because it'll be busted and it'll be really fun. My kaiju would say you gain 100 temp. My kaiju would say you gain 100 temporary hit points. I don't care. It's level 10. You're turning into a Godzilla. You're taking up 36 squares on the battlefield. You're gaining 100 temp.
And you ignore hardness on buildings.
Earthquake effect around you.
Something.
I would cast Dinosaur Fort first, and then this one after, and become a kaiju in the fort and just kill everything inside. Arena battle.
So, thoughts?
A
from Bob. Mr. Williams.
So cool.
I'll go with B.
B for Mr. Williams. Boothby.
I don't know. I hate all form spells. Anytime anyone casts a form spell in our group, the dice curse them with nothing over a 4. So we have never seen any of them be effective. So I really have a hard time saying, but I don't know. B.
Okay, B. Donnie.
1 minute duration. That's a B.
All right.
I want to be a dinosaur for 1 minute. That's great.
Steven.
So you can't talk.
Nope, you can't talk, you can't manipulate, and you can't
So
cast
you'd
spells.
be mute. You'd be a kaiju. That's
You'd be like,
You can smash things.
it's like you're trying to do like the roar, and it's just nothing.
you
Nothing.
can't
It's a roar
even
talking.
you can't even pantomime because that's a manipulate action.
Oh, so you're gonna be just like, there's this huge kaiju. What does it want? I don't know.
See, Lance is putting it together. He says fated confrontation, Godzilla versus Dinosaur form. Who wins, the kaiju or the 4 T-Rexes?
Man, Kaido's pretty cool though. This seems pretty fun.
I don't know. This
See-
is again. It's like there's a lot of these that are flavor, but I don't know. It's,
Yeah, I agree.
it's like
I think it's
B maybe.
what'd you
at
say it
most.
was?
B at most.
Yeah, I heard a bunch of B's. My thought process of this is probably actually a C, but
Yeah, I was thinking it's actually more like a C.
yeah, I think it is like a C. The fact that Bob likes it a lot indicates to me that it's not very good.
But it also means that the majority of the
Wow.
public actually do like it.
Oh, listen, I am 90% sure that most Pathfinder 2 players would get to this high level somehow, and then they would cast this spell, and it would be the highlight of their career. So
It would be awesome.
Except then you would say that's great. You can't manipulate and you can't say anything. Go.
Yeah, don't cast as a Derek
And
as
by
your
the way,
GM.
since you're actually in the game, you can't talk either. So I don't want to hear any sound coming from your voice until
Role
you
play
are no longer
perfectly.
doing it. Right.
Role play perfectly. All right, Nullify is our next spell, which comes from Secrets of Magic. Nullify is a, I think it's a dispel magic that just works.
That seems pretty cool.
It's a reaction. That's nice. That's very nice. All 4 traditions. It's a reaction, and a foe within range casts a 9th level or lower spell. It's 120 feet. You instantly destroy the spell, though at the cost of magical feedback. You automatically counteract the spell, but it brings you unavoidable harm. You lose 1d8 hit points per level of the triggering spell, and it's a reaction.
This smells great.
I think this spell's amazing.
That thing is ridiculous. This would be so good if I took this in that,
instead of Cataclysm.
instead of Cataclysm. This would have been awesome.
Everybody's in the chat like it's the 5e. It's the 5e counterspell. Oops, 5e counterspell leaked into our game, says Cheese of Ages.
It's
my understanding that 5e counterspell is busted. Is that fairly accurate? Nullify 6th level slow S+++ from K-Swiss deck. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good spells that are still going to be cast. It's 9th level or lower. So, I mean, aside from the very most powerful possible spells, I mean, you could even counter Power Word Stun or Maze with this, and it's automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think this thing's
Boom,
phenomenal.
it just works.
Yep.
It just works. That's
Yes.
what you should call it. You should say it just works.
That's what 10th
the name
level
of the
spells
spell.
should be.
I agree. And Steven, I think that's a really great point because it just works. Like at this level, you just want something that can actually just do the thing. And the fact that
it's a reaction.
and it's a reaction.
Jeez.
This is a good, strong, solid spell. Donnie, what do we got?
S.
Boothby.
S, but the wizard in my group put every feat into counterspelling, so he did not take this spell.
Fair enough. Mr. Williams.
S+.
Ooh, S+. Bob.
Yeah, this is like S plus. This is awesome. This is so good.
Steven.
F. I meant I'm just looking. I can't see anything wrong with it. It
No.
works in 120 feet, and
Yep, that's. I was going to bring up that point exactly, Steven. If you didn't,
yeah, it's like this thing. I can't see any. I see literally no downsides on the spell.
Yeah. Well-
Other than it's a reaction that.
you don't get that many reactions as a caster.
Yeah,
though.
well, right. It's a caster. You don't get that many because, like, exactly. I was thinking it's like if you have others reactions that you
Isn't
might
there
wanna use
that
instead.
thing that can stop people's reactions? So you could stop like a PC's reactions, and then they could not be able to actually use this at all.
Mhm.
But
There
it's
is-
still super good.
Yeah, like the reaction is actually there is a bit of an issue, but how else would you do this? It can't be. It has to be a reaction because it's a nullify. I mean, it's definitely an S. It might even be S+, but it's definitely S because I can't see how it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is going to sound crazy, but no, I mean, the range is good. The reaction is good. It just works. It's every trigger. It's automatic. Blah blah blah. Here's the thing. I love this feedback component because the 1d8 is enough damage.
And it's unavoidable. It says
It's 1d8. It's enough damage. like a lot of times the Pathfinder said, you take 1 point of damage per level of the spell. And you're like, why is it even making me calculate this? Right. But I feel like this is going to create some really good sweat moments.
Okay,
where,
so it's unavoidable. So if you cast Indestructibility on yourself and then cast this, do you take the damage?
I think you open up a black hole, your campaign is destroyed. You have to.
Martinez brings up a good point. It's also a common spell.
Yeah. So
This is awesome.
I'm gonna go S+. I'm gonna go S+.
Yeah.
I think the spell's really good, and
Yeah.
I mean, I could easily see a party where you have 2 people who both have access to this spell, and you have like 3 or 4 castings of this in the party per day, and they just basically completely shut out, the GM casting spells. All right, Primal Herd, which is somehow from the core rulebook. This is a primal only spell. It's 30 foot. Oh God! All right, you and up to 5 willing targets.
Mammoth's in the chat. Mammoth's in the chat.
You summon the power of the natural words, and you turn into a herd of mammoths. That's right, mammoths in the chat. Oh my God, Bob! All right, mammoths in the chat. You turn into a herd of mammoths, which itself is each, somehow this isn't from Frozen Flame, which is each a huge battle form. So let's take a look what happens. Everybody gets their armor class penalized by about 3 to 4 to 5 points. Everybody gets their speed reduced by about 10 to 20 points. Everybody gets 20 temporary hit points. And then everybody gets a weaker attack at a... but they do get to use their attack bonus if they want to. So as long as they have a high unarmed attack bonus, they're okay. And you get a trample attack. So this is a pretty sizable debuff.
Don't forget the low light vision.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Low light vision.
It sounded cooler when we said we get a mammoth herd. then it kind of fell on its face.
Oh, also remember, these are a battle form, so no one's going to be able to talk, manipulate actions, or cast spells.
Yeah, but trample's very good.
All right, so
trample is sweet.
Full disclosure: if you were fighting like 20 large giants, like that were like level 12, and there were 20 of them, and everybody turned into a mammoth herd, and then everybody trampled all 20 giants in order. That would be an awesome turn of Pathfinder 2. In any other situation or scenario, I think it's pretty much garbage.
I don't know. I use as a GM. Trample is like the thing my players dread the most.
Oh, listen,
it hits everyone.
When the dinosaur in Quest for the Frozen Flame, then they ended up taming the dinosaur. The first thing it did was trample 3 members of the 4-man party and potentially almost knock out 2 of them. It is very powerful, but the damage from this is not very competitive at this level. I mean, 4d6 plus 13, like that's not a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's terrible damage. Actually.
Yeah. So you're talking about you're talking about 30 damage with a reflex save.
Yeah, it's such a letdown after they start talking about it. But you get to change up to 5 people.
Yeah, but
that part's
everyone
cool.
has fly cast on them first. I'm not casting the spell.
The flying mammoths.
Yeah, I think being able to cast up to 5 people actually makes the spell worse because it's just one of your party members. You're screwing 5 of them.
Also, let's be realistic. What Pathfinder 2 Adventure Path are you playing that's going to allow 5 huge creatures in the same freaking space?
Domination vaults, right?
Yeah. Well, let's see. This corridor can't even hold one huge form, let alone 5. So by definition, I cast a spell and it all fails.
Yeah.
Heck, look, by the way,
sounds cool.
By the way,
it's not a good
each
spell.
target must have enough space to expand into the spell fails for that target. So if your allies are even next to each other, you can't cast this spell.
Oh my goodness.
The more we talk about this spell,
it's the worst
more
it's
I hate
getting.
this game.
Yeah, it's the whole game.
The whole game.
Also, I point this out again. This is an armor class debuff, not just for your fighters and your champions. It's an armor class debuff for your casters. Their armor class goes down on this.
This is an F in my mind. This is probably the worst one. It had so much potential to be so cool.
Yeah,
but it kind of failed.
Yeah, cast it on the bag of rats that you're carrying around from 3rd edition.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It does say 5. If I could cast this on the enemies, it would be better. I say F. Donnie.
F.
Boothby.
F.
Mr. Williams.
F.
Mr. Glicker.
I say D because I still like the flavor.
Flavor's fun. I will agree. And you know what? This would be a great spell when you cast at level 10 in the Quest for the Frozen Flame, because then it would be a massive AC buff and a huge attack bonus, and the damage would be incredible. And so maybe that will have to happen. But that's 5 Fs. It's going to go into the F category. All right. Only a couple left. All right. Primal Phenomenon. I think this is the Primal Wish.
Yep.
It's the Primal Wish. All right. B. Alter Reality was a B. Miracle was a C.
B plus.
Ooh, okay. A B plus. Donnie.
Gotta be better than Miracle, right?
Yeah, it's got to be better than Miracle. I think it's on the same tier as Alter Reality.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Primal list might be a little. It's probably about the same size as Alter Reality, as the cult spell list too, in terms of number of spells. Boothby.
B minus because occult is more fun.
Ah. Mr. Williams. Going once, going twice. Mr. Williams sold. All right, and Bob abstains, so solid on a B. Again, fun spell, but again, I think it really comes down to your GM. I would say that to anybody listening at home is if you have a GM who's really allowing you to like do some really cool things with this, like if you're casting Primal Phenomenon to like create ley lines of energy or to magically imbue a valley with a form of sentience and like spread like life and or awaken a forest to make Ents or something, and like if that's what you're doing with this spell, you're doing it right in my personal opinion. But if you're just using it to duplicate spells, I think we could do better. All right.
That's Derek's official opinion. Got it.
Remake is our next spell.
Remake.
Remake. All right. It is all disciplines, all traditions. It's 1 hour casting time. It's an uncommon spell, and its range is 5 feet, and it's from the core rulebook, and I have no idea what the spell is. I've never read it before. You fully recreate an object from nothing, even if that object was destroyed. To do so, you must be able to picture the object in your mind. Additionally, the material component must be a remnant of the item, no matter how small or insignificant. Even a speck of dust from disintegrate is enough. The spell fails if your imagination relied too much on guesswork.
So you make them like your kid's cartoon drawing?
If the object would be too large to fit in a 5-foot cube, if the object still the spell fails if your imagination relied on too much guesswork. If the object would be too large to fit in a 5-foot cube. So 10th level magic, it's got to fit inside of a post, like a mailbox.
Fail?
So you can only like regenerate your buddy who's like a gnome.
If the object still exists and you just weren't aware of it, or if the object is an artifact or has a level over 20 or has similar vast magical powers. In other words, sorry to use another Marvel reference, like when they blow up the Mind Stone and then Thanos remakes that shit with the Time Stone, that wouldn't work because you would be remaking an artifact.
Well, he didn't remake it. He just used a Time Stone to rewind time.
Right. Well, I mean, but that's fundamentally what we're doing. The item resembles this, reassembles in perfect condition, even if your mental image of it was damaged or weathered. If the object was magical, this spell typically restores its constant magical properties, but not any temporary ones. Blah, blah, blah.
Can an object be...
No, this spell fails.
PC?
This spell fails. No, it does not.
Then it's weak.
This spell fails utterly because of the 5-foot cube.
That's my point.
If like a dam shattered...
It does pass the flick mace test.
All right. You could recreate a flick mace. So there is that. Yeah, so Don Pokey also agrees with me here. I read this and the 5-foot cube killed me. Like if there was an ancient city and you could imagine the city and you could bring it back. If the volcano erupted and wiped out a portion of the town and you could rebuild it. If the walls were breached and they were able to, stave off the attack, but tomorrow the final battle will come and they'll be breached, and you could remake the wall of the city, the Great Wall of the city. If the pyramid collapsed in the earthquake and you could rebuild it, that would be awesome. Yeah.
But you have to know what it looks like too. So you find like a sliver of rock. What was this?
I don't know. Drinking fountain. Fail. Oh, well, try it again tomorrow.
It 10th level spell. It should be penultimate magic. And you're like, okay, well, I can recreate that end table that I really like.
Derek sat on the chair and his fat ass broke it, so I guess I'll just remake it.
The table you built for me, Derek, you cannot remake with this spell. It's too big.
Right. The gaming table I built for Bob would not fit in a 5-foot cube. Ergo, a 19th level wizard could not recreate it.
And it has to have been destroyed. You couldn't make a copy of something you had
This
already.
would be.
Oh yeah.
This should be a ritual, and it should be able to remake anything.
Yeah.
Ritual.
At least anything that you've seen and you can physically like recreate in your mind.
I'll even agree. I'll even agree with.
Yeah.
I'll even agree with Paul No Longer There More, because when we were talking on the when Steven and Mark were on the channel, we were talking about this distinction, and Steven said that rituals are typically reserved for spells that create permanent items.
I did.
And
Mark,
Mark and Steven, I should say. And like, well, this creates a permanent item, so it should just be a ritual.
Well, it's 10th level.
Yeah, which means
it breaks the rule.
Which means it should, but in the lamest fashion possible, it should just be able to remake a whole freaking castle. I don't know.
Yeah, as a 10 level spell, it should, if it's not a ritual, it should be actions of cost.
Yeah. All right, I'm saying D.
D.
Concur D.
Steven?
I don't know. This is another one of those RPG flavor ones. If it comes in, it comes in really good. I'm going to say C.
Okay.
I can see it being used. If you need it, it works very well.
Okay, let me ask you this. Given.
Yeah.
Let's say this spell didn't exist. Given that this spell, let's say it didn't exist, but given that it's a 5-foot cube only, and you have to have a piece of it, and you have to have a good mental image of what this was. If anybody in your game, again, remember, let's pretend this spell never got written. If anybody in your game was like, hey, you find, oh no, the king's crown was destroyed, and all that remains is a single jewel. And someone said, hey, Derek, or hey, GM, can I use my alter reality spell or my miracle spell or my wish spell to recreate the crown? Would you ever say no?
No, I guess you're right. So maybe.
And by the way, those spells take 3 actions. So
yeah, no, definitely. This one is not as. I think they might have not made this as. I think they went overboard in making this not as powerful as it could or should have been.
Well, they were very
trying to rein the power in.
Yeah.
Well, they were very concerned about it because it is uncommon. So
it's uncommon on top of that. Yeah. All right, maybe it's a D.
All right, D. All right.
Could have been an arcane DC 35 skill check.
Well, the concept is really good, but I can see now once you pick it apart, I can see it's like, it's.
Well, that is what we do here on Nice Alaska.
I know, and you
changed
my mind. You changed my mind.
So
Good
Cheese
job.
of Ages said there's actually a ritual that does a rebuild towns and it's lower level. I don't know that, and I know Cheese of Ages from Steven's chats all the time.
Oh, man, I didn't know that either.
If that's true, that's like, then what the heck is this thing?
Then this is an F. If that's true,
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know.
Okay, well, we got a bunch of people, including Henry in chat. Henry, who is
I'm not as familiar
an adventurer. Who says it's an F, and you know what? I'm gonna take it on bank that ritual exists. In which case, I am downgrading this to an F.
There are some level 4 rituals that can rebuild buildings and stuff from strength of thousands.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, well, then this is F.
All right. Yeah.
It went from C to D to F.
Yes, C to D to F.
You worked your magic.
I won. I altered reality. I know. I fabricated truth.
Fabricated truth. You convinced. I failed my will save.
All right. Revival is up next. This is healing, necromancy, positive. It's divine and primal. It's 30-foot range. It targets dead creatures and living creatures of your choice, and you have to sustain it. So you're cashing into an action around. You heal 10d8 plus 40. Should point out that at 10th level, your 2-action heal is 10d8 plus 80. Your AoE is 10d8 plus, or just 10d8. So this is more healing than a 10th level heal spell. And it's 2 actions instead of 3 for the AoE version. So that's pretty good. So 10d8 plus 40 is an average of 85 hit points healed. In addition, you return to any number of dead targets to life temporarily, with the same effects and limitations as raised dead. The raised creatures have a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points you gave the living creatures, but they have no normal hit points. The raised creatures can't regain hit points or gain temporary hit points in any other way, and once Revival's duration ends, they lose the temporary hit points and die again. Revival cannot resurrect creatures killed by disintegrate or a death effect. So
It seems pretty good, I think.
I mean, 85, 30-foot range. I mean, again, remember the cleric AoE is 3 action, and it would be 10d8.
And
Yeah.
last line, it has no effect on undead. So
Oh,
no
and it has-
damage for the healing.
Okay.
Oh, that part kind of sucks.
Yeah, I worry less about
Well,
that.
doesn't the AoE healing do that?
It does. Yes, that's
Yeah.
the dream scenario, right? Where
Yeah.
you're only fighting undead and you're healing all your allies and you're I'm just saying a 3-action 10th level heal is 10d8. And let's be real, it's probably 10d10 because every cleric takes healing hands because their feat list sucks. So they're healing for 10d8, which is 45 hit points. This would heal for 85 hit points. And because it's targeted and you choose, you could be fighting other living creatures even if you didn't have selective feat or selective energy, and you could target them and heal them for 85. Which is not as much as a 2-action heal. A 2-action heal would be 45 plus 80, which is 125. But you're healing for 85 to a bunch of targets. And if some of your people did die, they come back to life temporarily, albeit, but with 85 temp.
That's pretty good.
I mean, am I reading this right? Is this essentially a 30-foot burst from you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
any number of creatures.
Any number of creatures.
Any number of creatures.
And you get to pick, though. It's targeted,
Right.
not a burst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great spell.
I think the spell is great.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
And you can sustain it up to a minute.
Right. And here's the thing. You don't have to sustain it. Like, if you heal the people and you're good, this could
Wait a
just
second.
be...
So you could just do this every turn
Yeah.
and just
Well-
like pumping everyone up?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But
Oh,
you
that's awesome.
Well, you only get 2 temporary hit points, Bob, or 2 10th level spells, Bob.
Oh, it's not. It's sustained. You have to cast it again. Basically, is that what you're saying?
No,
I
no.
thought sustained just
Sustain
keeps
it.
going.
No,
Yeah.
no. Bob, it heals everybody. And then if
Yes.
they're dead, they stay alive
Correct.
for
But
as
then
long
is
as
it-
you sustain it. So if I stop sustaining it, they
then
fall back to the ground and die again.
Okay, sorry. I was thinking like it's sustained, meaning every turn it keeps pumping up their HP, like regenerating them.
No. Cheese, yeah,
Sorry.
this Anthony is explaining for Bob. He says the sustain is just for keeping them alive. Cheese of Ages says,
Thank you.
Cheese of Ages says nobody ever dies in this game. F.
No, Cheese of Ages, you need to play in the Northern Reaches because there's a lot of deaths in that.
I think we had 12 deaths last week or something like that in Northern Reaches.
There's 6 in one game.
So I think this is as a 2-action, 85-point AoE targeted heal. I already think that's competitive. I also like this spell because if someone does die in the middle of a fight, we get actions back. This is a fun way to bring people back into the game so they don't have to sit there and wait while you get to do the cool fight and, they're dead. All right? Yeah, like the cleric or whoever cast this, or the druid, whoever cast this, has to sustain it in order to keep your ass alive. But, I mean, I think that's a small price to pay if, like, 2 party members go down.
That's also the fun choice. Do I want to spend 1 action to keep Bob alive?
Yeah, and in that case, no. But I think this,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think this spell is an S.
I don't know about S, but it's pretty damn good.
No, I'll use a World of Warcraft. You remember the introductory, or maybe it was the trailer cinematic for, I think it was for like Battle for Azeroth, where like Sylvanas is fighting against the guy's kid. What's his name? Anduin. And then the Alliance people get killed, and then Anduin reaches up and he does like this mass AoE resurrection. Okay, like. This, it feels like a 10th level magic. My party members are down. They're down. Everybody's down 100 hit points. Oh no, the rogue is dead. The swashbuckler is dead. I cast a 2-action spell and I heal everybody to full, and then the dead people are back up at 85. Like, I don't know that. And then, by the way, if you do this twice, they could die again, and you could cast the spell on like the 3rd or 4th round of the fight again and bring them back up one more time. If I had to change anything, I would only change the following. I would say that when you revivify the person, they get to stand up and pick up their equipment. That way, they don't have to spend the first round, of their newly gained
Then
life.
it would be S.
All right, I'm saying S. Where are you guys going with it?
A for me.
So I would say A normally, but we don't have an S yet, and it looks kind of lonely up there. So.
That's okay, Donnie. It doesn't have to have. It doesn't have to be there. All right, but Boothby.
Yeah, I was saying A, but S for the same reason as Donnie.
S.
S for Mr. Williams. Bob,
What
what'd you say?
else is a cleric going to use it for?
A from Bob.
Yeah, and Steven. You might be the deciding vote, Steven.
This is literally the anti-TPK spell,
Thank you.
and that is an S right there.
Yes. Yes.
That sways me. That right there.
Yeah.
That is keep the game going. So yeah,
Exactly.
S.
I love the game I love the spell for its mechanical components, but I also love the game for, hey, you two died in the first round. you crit failed against the dragon's breath weapon or whatever. Now you got to sit there for the next hour and a half. Now screw that. Like, I'm going to cast a spell. You're going to get back in the game, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated, but we're going to have fun with it.
Not only that, it even has, it's really good because then, as you said, it's like they come back to life, but only for a minute. So, okay, if half the party goes down, you bring them back, everyone heals up, and then suddenly there is a ticking clock because you have to finish this fight.
That part's pretty cool.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
no.
there's a lot to this.
Yeah, no, it's
very
interesting.
fun.
You know, Austin does say it kind of does ruin the tension in final battles.
I don't think it ruins it because
No,
if
it
anything,
adds to it.
adds to it, and the GM
Yeah.
can really go all out. If I'll tell you this, if I know the characters have this spell, I'm adding another 200 to 300 hit points to the bad guy right now because suddenly I want them to drop and then come back. Because it's going to be truly epic.
I also love the mocking from Total Entropy. He says S for sorcerers because they get effortless concentration. A for clerics because they don't. That's right. Clerics are the only caster class that do not get access to effortless concentration to be able to sustain as a free action. So get screwed, clerics.
They never know what to do with their third action. Anyhow. They can sustain. That's fine.
I like YG. It says on the second round you cast invulnerability and then sustain. That's pretty cool.
You see, I told you, invulnerability is better than you think. It's better than you think. You're starting to figure out all the permutations.
All right. Shadow Army. Shadow spells have always been hit or miss for me. We'll see if this penultimate shadow spell can bring home the bacon. It's arcane, it's occult, it's 3 actions. It's auditory, illusion, mental, shadow, visual. And it's range 500 foot for the 50-foot burst, will saves involved, and it lasts for 1 minute. You create dozens. So this is, what's the spell that Doctor Strange
Mirror
casts?
image? Oh, no.
The 1,000 shards of whatever, where he makes a million copies of himself. You create dozens of semi-real copies of yourself that swarm across the battlefield and fight your enemies. You are virtually indistinguishable from your clones, allowing you to hide and sneak amongst them, which doesn't make any difference unless you have a good hide or sneak. So you need to have a good stealth check, which you probably don't. And so, okay, moving on. An enemy that is in the area when the spell is cast or that ends its turn in the area takes 3d10 mental and 3d10 bludgeoning damage and is possibly inflicted with a condition depending on the result of its will save. When you cast the spell, you choose the condition that your shadows will impose on a failed save, either clumsy 2, enfeebled 2, flat-footed, or slowed 1. It does not have incapacitation. On a critical success, the creature takes no damage, and for the duration of the spell, all of its saves get bumped up 1 degree higher, and it can automatically distinguish you from your clones. If the creature succeeds, it takes half damage. If it fails, it takes the full damage and gets the chosen condition. And if it critically fails, it takes double damage and gains the chosen condition.
That seems pretty sweet.
So this is a massive. Now they can't get slowed 2. They can't get slowed 2. But
Yeah.
it is a massive AoE slow 1 damage spell.
That you can cast from a distance,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. You could cast it 500 feet away and then drop it in a 50-foot burst on the enemy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thoughts?
My group was really excited about this spell, but Magic Missile always trumped it as far as the better spell
Damn,
to
Magic
cast in
Missiles. Magic Missiles so
situation
good.
that they were in at the end of the game.
People are telling me this is coming from Naruto.
Yeah, I'm
It's-
sure.
Someone says, so failed, it gets slowed 1 for 1 minute. This is not quite slow 6, but it's getting there. I mean, because realistically, obviously the area of effect persists for a minute, but it's a 50-foot burst, so and it also only affects enemies, doesn't affect your allies. So you can just cast this in the middle of a fight, and assuming the enemies are going to be ending their turn every turn, they're potentially going to be taking a bunch of damage, and they're probably going to eventually fail the will save and become slowed. And it's a will save fort save. It's will save slow instead of a fort save slow. Also you could clumsy 2 them and enfeebled them, but most of the time you're probably going to slow them.
This is pretty good.
I think
this is pretty good.
A 50-foot burst that can affect unlimited amount in that area at 500 feet away seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it's an S, but I think it's like an A.
I think it's A. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to cast the spell.
I can't put it this way. I can't see a reason why you would never want to cast it. It's always useful. It's always good.
The play experience we had was the encounters we were in at the end of the game were 1 a couple of creatures so that
Got it.
was
Yes,
better for
obviously.
single
Yes.
target
Yes,
damage.
this spell is much better if you're fighting, 4 or 6 or 8 monsters. A lot of these spells, like we said this before, a lot of these spells have been like huge burst, affect all these targets, and you're like, yeah, but if I'm fighting one CR22 or level 22 dragon, how's that really going to help me, right? So
Yeah, but if you get clumsy and feeble, flat-footed, slow, you get. I mean that
you get a little bit of choice there.
that's pretty good. Like
Yeah.
you get that on even one monster. That will slow them down. I mean that's all you need to do with those levels. It's
Yeah. So Cheese is saying high A.
flat-footed alone is really good at high level. I mean that could be hundreds of points of damage right there. So
Yeah, I like it. A.
yeah.
Donnie.
I'd call it an A, but I'd be ready to be disappointed by it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Mr. Williams.
You are playing Pathfinder too.
All right. Yeah, you are playing. All right. So it sounds like a solid A. All right. We got 3 more. All right. Here's one that is very, very polarizing. Summon kaiju.
Awful.
Awfully good. That's what you
No,
said.
there's no Is this the no monster spell again?
This is the no monster spell. This is
fucking awful.
This is an uncarnate spell from Secrets of Magic.
It's kaiju spelled with a Y.
Not
with a K.
So it's a rare
Off-brand.
it's a rare conjuration carnate, 500-foot range, 3 actions. You summon a kaiju, but not really. You basically get an effect this turn. It's like the orange cards from Dominion. You get an effect this turn, and you get an effect next turn. You get them coming, and you get them going. It depends on which kaiju titan you summon, but basically they all appear. They do some damage. They might do some additional effects. And then when they depart, they do something else, which also might do some damage. For example, we'll just use one as an example. If you summon Agria the Forever Storm, they give you that she has a speed of 80 and a fly of 200 feet.
Why do they have that in there?
Not really sure, because they don't really do anything.
I think it's because they can appear.
Yeah, they can
move,
appear.
and then depart someplace else.
Right, they
for damage.
appear on the turn.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
right. The
Okay.
idea is they appear on your turn, and when she arrives, she does her Breath of 1,000 Storms, and she shoots 2 1,200-foot lines of electricity.
Sounds awesome.
One from each of her heads. They can't overlap. Each creature takes 6d12 electricity damage. By the way, 6d12 electricity damage is equivalent to a level 5 lightning bolt. A level 5 lightning bolt, okay? But if they fail, they're slowed 1, but only for a round.
That's still not
Right.
bad though.
Then on your next turn, it can fly 200 feet, 80 feet, move on the ground, and then it leaves. So it can move and then leave. And when it leaves, every creature within 100 foot of it takes 6d10 sonic damage, and then is knocked prone on a failed save.
I just want to summon a kaiju. That's what I thought I was doing.
Just turn into one. You can turn into one with
That's my point.
Yeah, but when
That's
you
my
turn into a
point.
kaiju, you don't get to do the 1,000-year breath. It's the 1,200-foot long
But
lightning
why not?
streams.
That's what you should
Yeah,
be
but
able
I'm
to do.
sticking around for a minute.
If you turn into a kaiju, you get to stomp on one guy for each action.
That's right.
I mean, each of these kaiju should be a monster, and they should be awesome, and they should be ridiculous.
But Bob, you're forgetting the point that the real summon spells all really suck in this game.
Okay, so everything's supposed to suck.
The pseudo summon spells to me are much better than the actual summon spells because they at least do something.
I agree with that. I mean, we all past 10th level. I think summoning spells, like 10th character level, summoning spells don't really compete. Like the classic example of this is Summon Giant, which is a level 5 spell. So you're casting at level 9, and it summons a troll, which is like level 5. So that's 4 levels lower than you. And by the time you get up into the teens, the summon spells are summoning creatures that are 5, even 6 levels lower than your current level. It just doesn't compete. This at least gives you that. This is the Final Fantasy summons. It's the Final Fantasy summon, and I think it's better than the baseline summons. Most of our high level summons have been D's. I'm prepared to give this a C.
I will give it a D because you don't even summon a creature.
You do summon a creature, Bob. It just stays for 2 rounds and then leaves.
Yeah, what's its hit points in AC?
Which is exactly what happens with a real summon spell if you don't sustain it.
It is. You can't even be targeted by anything. It's not even a creature.
Anthony says
I mean,
point.
It says it's a creature, but
Anthony says points for it being literally a Final Fantasy summon. All right, we're in the tank here, so I'm gonna go to the public chat as well. Kaiju, is it a C plus or is it a is it a D?
C plus.
Well, how about this?
No, I'm saying a
If
C
you-
or a B.
If you didn't have it, if you called it instead of summon kaiju, call it like summon elemental storm or
I'd
summon,
be happy.
right? Like
Yes.
summon,
Yes.
astral projection,
100%.
whatever. This is a much better spell. I think.
Yes.
I think the
Don't tell me summon kaiju and not let me
right.
summon a kaiju.
Exactly. This is a terrible name, but
Yes.
it's
Ooh,
actually
yeah.
a good spell.
No, I do
I
because-
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
It's got sweet abilities, but
It's
I
good.
want to summon a kaiju.
It has to be renamed. It's like summon elemental.
Yeah, I think you're just
Fury
setting.
or
I think you're.
something.
Yeah, I think you're just setting people up for that expectation for that big kind of Godzilla summoning thing and it's not really getting to do that. We got the poll going, but Donnie, Boothby, you want to give us your thoughts?
I hate that you have nature incarnate that turns you into a kaiju for a minute, and then you have this spell. They're both primal. Can I give it like a C minus minus?
Okay, Boothby.
Yeah, see, I agree. I don't like these incarnate spells. I like to think of them more as like an elemental storm or
Yeah.
something like that. But
All right. Well, the
yeah,
chat.
don't tell me a creature and then don't give me a creature.
All right. Well, the chat agreed with the CBA, and since we all basically said C's and D's, I'm gonna just call it at call it C, and say summon kaiju gets a C.
What do you want, Damien?
Yeah, I didn't even get to say my grade, but it's a B, but flavor is an S. It is. I swear to God, this is my favorite spell in Pathfinder.
Man, I
Just
just
because-
don't see
And by
it.
the way, in that brief moment of Bob's utter look of disgust, you understand the difficulty that Steven has and Mark have in running a role-playing game publishing company. Because how do you make everybody happy? You just can't do it. You just can't do it.
You're gonna find out because you're helping me play.
That's
So-
true.
Which means I'm probably helping playtest too.
we have two people in the same Zoom call from the same Patreon. One person says this is like one of the most disappointing spells of all time, and then the guy below him goes, "This might be my favorite spell in all of Pathfinder 2." I
No,
love it.
it is my favorite spell. in
Oh,
all
okay,
of
no, it's-
Pathfinder. There's no. It might be. This is my favorite spell in all of Pathfinder.
This,
Well, the
this
thing
was
is,
one of the
I-
first things I hated with Monster Myth. When I
It's
saw that
the
it wasn't a
flavor
creature, I
of
got
it.
so pissed.
I
I'll
do.
be so I am going to tell you I 100% agree because when they announced the tournament modules, I was so excited. There was going to be kaiju, all that. I look at it, I'm like, "Where's the kaiju?" I'm flipping through, and I'm like, "Where is it? Like, where is all this stuff?" And none of it was in there. And then it really, I'm still remember that. And like, this is you got to be very, very important, very selective with words, especially if you're writing for a living and coming up with spell names. Like this was an obvious fail. I don't know why they did it. I think they're very big Final Fantasy, fans at Paizo. They mention it all the time. Mark mentions like these spells constantly. I think that's what they were going for. And
Yeah.
they mucked up the name.
Yeah, I agree. Because I will say this: the poor one it's very sad. The last one, the names, 10 out of 10, except for this last one. Look at this. You could summon the Star Titan, the Forever Storm, the Inferno Below, the Final King, the Shapeless Feeder, and then the Moon Grub.
That's my favorite one. Moon Grub.
Where the hell did that one come from? The Moon
I
Grub.
guarantee.
So is it a
the
bug?
next
Is it a
time-
bug?
Yeah, it's a grub. I guarantee you come on the show and you ask Mark and he'll give you the story. I
I'm sure.
guarantee there's a story behind this.
All right. So summon kaiju. Definitely, I agree that there's a flavor disconnect there as well. So, all right, last two spells. Probably two of the most.
Oh, old Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
It's a giant moth, right?
No.
No, there actually was a grub. It was
Oh, really?
I forgot yeah. I forgot the name of it, but it would like do like cold type damage and stuff. So
All right, probably the two of the most famous spells in D&D/Pathfinder history. We've got Wish and we've got Time Stop. All right, Time Stop. Level 10.
Cooler than it sounds.
Level 10, 3 actions. You stop time. You get to use 9 actions in 3 sets of 3. And after each set of actions, 1 round passes, but only for you. Effects specifically targeting or affecting you, and effects you create during the stoppage. also pass. All other creatures and objects are invulnerable to your attacks, and you cannot target or affect everything with it. Once you have finished your action, time begins to flow again for the rest of the world. If you created an effect with a duration that extends beyond time stop's duration, such as Wall of Fire, it immediately affects others again, but it doesn't have any of the effects that happen only when you first cast the spell.
So it's actually a really good spell if you actually read the text and not just assume what it does when you read the word time stop, which is what I did. Because it sounds so cool, and I thought I could like just do a bunch of stuff. You can, if you prep this right, you could do a lot of really good stuff. And I actually think this spell is actually pretty good.
Well, it's one of the greatest spells.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless you want to attack a bunch of times.
Well, no,
I thought I could
Bob,
do.
Bob was like, so it was our final session of Pathfinder 2, and Bob, this is what it's like playing in person with us. We're playing, and then Bob like gets really excited, and he goes, time stop. And then immediately, Aaron and I just start yelling at Bob because we go, Bob, do you even know what this spell does? Because I immediately already knew what he wanted to do, what he thought it did, that it didn't do that he had never read the spell, he had taken it without reading it, and he had no clue what he was getting himself into. And I just went into him like, no, Bob, the reason I'm mad at you is because I know that you didn't read this spell, and that's already, you've locked yourself into casting it for the time. And then Bob proceeds to read through the spell, and he goes, well, ow, I thought I was going to stop time and like hit him with like 100 magic missiles.
So I said, all right, can I retroactively cast Cataclysm? And then that's what I did.
and then he did 30 damage. But,
yeah, that's why I did 30 damage.
All right, time stop. It is the Buff Master's dream. You can cast a bunch of walls. You can pretty much do everything. Obviously, you cannot, set up a bunch of debuffs and buffs for your allies, but you can just do whatever you want. You get 9 actions for 3.
This spell
it's great.
is might be this is one of the top spells in all Pathfinder. I mean, it's if you are using it correctly and you know what you're doing, you can totally change the battlefield. When I used to run the DCC tournament for Goodman Games, and the ones that would always make it to the final rounds are the ones that did battlefield manipulation. They always made it to round 3 of the tournament. And this is a battlefield manipulation's dream.
Yes.
And this
lets you
incredibly powerful.
This lets you put combat as war tactics in a combat as sport game.
Yeah, I agree. It gives you that time that you need in order to set up the right buffs and go get the right scrolls to get the right perfect thing, to cast the walls of stone or the walls of force or to lay a network of things. I think it's an incredible spell. And just from a sheer action economy, I mean, you're trading 3 for 9. We'll take that. We'll take that trade all day.
Huge.
Right. Yeah, this spell is insane.
Yeah. I love it. All right.
Especially if you read it.
Yeah, well, if you read it, but and you have to prepare. Like, you can't just cast it just willy-nilly. You have to be ready to use and know what you're doing.
This is why I should be playing melee and not sorcerers.
Well, I mean, I give this S+.
Yeah, it's S+.
Donnie, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, S+. It's classic. Yeah, it deserves it.
Boothby.
Yeah, S+.
Damien.
S+ for sure.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say S+ as well. Again, in a game where actions are as much of a premium as they are in Pathfinder 2, I think this is just you just can't beat this kind of action economy. And it's pretty incredible. So I think it's really great. All right, and that leaves us with the spell of all spells, the Wish. We all know what it does, and we've seen it 3 other times, but this time it's for the arcane.
But this time it's still a D.
Miracle was a C, Alter Reality and Primal Phenomenon were both Bs. So the question is this still a B, or does this get the nudge? Does this get the upgrade to A?
Well, here's what I say.
Yes.
Is that because of the name, and this is why words are so powerful, that if you say wish, you are going to want to use it as a wish spell. And suddenly, and I think the GM will buy into it too, because it's like, look, it's called Wish.
Yes, I think that's so huge. That's completely right.
It is so huge, and it has so much history that this might not be it might have the same power as those other C and B spells.
You say history as like everyone's played multiple years.
Yeah, but you know what a wish is. You watched Aladdin. You watched Aladdin.
This has
I
history.
get that, but so does
right,
Alter Reality.
No,
I mean,
but see,
no.
For example, Bob, if you were playing high level D&D with your cousins and your buddies around your table,
yes, and we're all Marvel fans,
and you're all Disney fans, and someone casts Wish, and they go,
Reality.
right, and someone goes, "Hey, can I turn myself into a prince and get an entire kingdom with an entire entourage, and then I could come into Agrabah and I can win Princess Jasmine's heart?" And you go, "Yeah, I mean, it worked in Aladdin, right? Like it has that." It has
so
that.
does Alter Reality. It's the same thing.
It does
not.
Reality warping is exactly the same thing.
No. Wish has been around for over 2,000 years. This Alter Reality, I guarantee, has not been around for more than 100 years at most. The concept of that.
Maybe I'll default to that on that basis.
Blue Moon God says same goes for Miracle, although that one got a C. That one got a C strictly on the absolute dog shitness of the divine spell list. That is why that happened.
And believe it or not, I think Wish trumps Miracle. Because Miracle seems like, oh, that just happened, but you had no power in it. It's a miracle. Wish is
I would agree with that.
Wish.
Wording,
wish for whatever you want. But it's important. Wording is really important.
I agree, but I think Alter Reality is very a strong wording.
That being said, I am going to grade this strictly on the basis of it being what, the rest of the spells do. And it's still, for the most part, a double 10 spell that you're cashing in for these other effects. And keep in mind, if you're taking Wish cannot time stop and Wish cannot nullify.
Yeah, but I think you can convince your GM to make this do more than you think it would. And I think it's an A.
And I think I'm going to say this. I want to rate it a B with the caveat that depending on if you're playing with the Pathfinder Society.gm, yeah, it's not going to work. But if you're playing with me or you're playing with Steven, you're going to get away with it and you're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it's really a B, but I think if you're playing with a group and you use Wish and you can convince them and make them fail their will save the GM, this is an A.
If you're playing with a GM that's like Derek or me or Steven, then all four of the spells are like A.
Probably, but I might still give more of a nod to Wish.
Yeah, but Derek, you said your players would get away with it. Does that also mean they would get screwed with it?
I would definitely take an opportunity.
Definitely.
I would definitely to quote Powered by the Apocalypse. I would definitely take an opportunity to make a GM move. I don't look for ways to screw my players over. I look for ways. I'm not adversarial, right? Like there's that John Wick, like what is it, Dirty Rotten Tricks for Game Masters or something like that. I don't look for ways to screw over my players. I look for ways to complicate the situation so that we get to see out of the frying pan into the fire, and to see more and more, sort of interesting actions.
Derek will screw over himself. He plays in a game on Fridays where there is no GM, and he will purposely, for the flavor, make complications that they are true, but that are very, very difficult. So I know he would screw us over.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, it would be, an A probably in my group with complications whenever you used it for something ridiculous, but fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think Aaron also makes a great point here in the chat. He says, the fact of the matter is they removed the GP and the XP cost and the life lost and the aging that occurred in like first edition and third edition and stuff from Wish. And so, it does need to be a little bit more reined in, right? Like, if you're literally able to reshape reality at will, like on a scale that we're talking about, and you're doing it twice a day, and this is Pathfinder, this is D&D, this is D&D Magic. So there's no cost. There's no you're not this isn't like, Earthsea, where you're upsetting the balance of the weave because you're taxing it too much, and that you're messing with the fundamental laws of magic. Nope, you could just
Earthweave, really? You're flexing. Flexing.
I'm just saying, you could technically cast 2 wishes a day every day, 365 days a year, and it wouldn't cost you anything, right? It wouldn't do anything. So
no, yeah. Well, 10th level spell. Right. You wanted them broken. Now you're complaining that it's broken.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our level 10 spell review. Now we have a pretty balanced list with mostly at the C. I would say it's probably weighted towards the higher end. We did get a couple really good spells in Time Stop and Nullify. We got a solid spell in Revival. Great little Divine Primal spell. Dinosaur Fort was a magnanimous gift brought to you by my co-host. I would have put it in F. Fabricated Truth has a really cool role-playing potential and combat potential. Shadow Army big AoE slow with some damage, and you can't be mad about that even at these levels of the game. So overall, I think this sort of highlights sort of the general thing that we've seen over and over again with these games. So for now, that is it. That is all 10 levels of spell. Now, I can say we did not do the focus spells. We did not do the cantrip spells. And yes, there's probably about 50 spells that have come out in like Dark Archive and Knights of Last Wall that were from lower level, because we got some of the
last 3 months.
Yeah, just like the last 3 months. But I thought I would share something here, and let me see how I could do this. For you guys, you have to watch the YouTube channel, I guess, for you guys to actually be able to see this. If you're not already watching the YouTube channel, maybe I can share it. Maybe I'll try.
I think you can just share your screen and it becomes the full screen.
All right, let's try that. Share screen.
I can see it.
Right now it's in the lower half, which is fine. Let's see if
right.
it goes in the full thing.
All right, what happened? Did anything happen?
Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the delay on YouTube.
All right. Oh, I crashed YouTube. Great.
Oh,
No, YouTube's still working.
YouTube's still working, but we are frozen.
Yeah.
But I think everything's actually still running. I think you just crashed the YouTube. Is it still trying to grab us?
No, it's
Zoom.
It's Zoom and OBS.
It's a Zoom thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Zoom and OBS.
I mean, you could still read it on the lower half if you go back to normal.
All
We're
right.
frozen, but they can hear us.
All right, well,
Yeah.
there we go. All right, I unfroze this. All right, so you'll have to check it out below. So what I did is I took all of our spells that we had rated 1 to 9 before this. And by the way, this spreadsheet is going to be available on a Google Share Drive. It's going to be public. Everybody's going to be able to get access to it. So all of our ratings are going to be here. And of course, for those of you who don't know this, in my day-to-day life, I am a data scientist. Okay, that is my job. I look at data and I respect, try to create analytics and insight from data. These were the rankings of our spells from levels 1 through 9. We ranked a total of 673 spells, and we broke them down into S++, which of course was slow, 6, S+, S, A, B, C, D, F. I did not fudge these numbers in the slightest. We have almost exactly perfectly a normal distribution. This concept of regression towards the mean, from a data science perspective, I could tell you that if you collect data randomly or sample it randomly, and you end up getting a normal distribution as tightly, basically a bell curve, as tight as good as one of this one, it means, generally speaking, that your process is very, very, very accurate and that you have an extremely viable methodology. For whatever reason, we literally ended up with 106 A's and 106 F's. Okay? We had 125 B's and 132 D's. So it's not exactly perfect, but about as perfect of a normal distribution as you can have. So literally, the average spell in Pathfinder 2 is just about a C. From our first. Now, obviously, I will need to add our spells that we graded today, but the fact is, for the most part, we had a bunch of C's, a couple D's, a couple B's, couple bit of A's. So these numbers will change a little bit, but not, an infinite amount. But on the balance, this means that, one, our grading process was very, very fair and balanced, because it means that at the end of the day, grading against itself, we didn't have any particular biases. Believe it or not, our process was fair. Oh boy, we're getting a couple tips in here. We've got, let's see, we had a $10 tip from Lazarus Darks. $10 for 10 levels, end of an era, 26 streams. If you start classes next week, there will probably be 26 classes by the time you finish. That actually checks out. Total Entropy has looking forward to seeing this on Data is Beautiful, and he's referring to r/Data is Beautiful, which is a Reddit subreddit. So
once this is public, I can start sharing it around to everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we're going to make this public. Now, already there's been discussions about maybe we could make some changes or allow some people to edit this data to sort of help categorize it. But the big thing that we really wanted to take a look at here was from our data, can we figure out which tradition was the best. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to bring in here, we're going to bring in our arcane. Hold on a sec here. We're going to bring in our arcane spell list, and we are going to bring in our scores and our counts. Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. Name.
Come on, don't you do this for a living?
I do, but the problem is I have to also make sure that the OBS can capture it properly.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay. I need to move this overlay under. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
All data science works in a black box. It doesn't work when it's being watched actively.
That's correct. It only works in a black box. Okay. So, arcane, right. Now, the key with this is we want to make sure that we do not get any arcane. We only want the spells that are arcane. So this is the real test here. So we are going to ignore any spell which did not get a rating, which is like all of the cantrips. So this is arcane only, but not fault. But remember, because there's a lot of spells that you know. So hold on a sec here. These are all the arcane spells.
This is riveting radio. Let me tell you.
And they want you to zoom in a little bit when you get it actually live.
You sons of bitches. Okay. All right. Yeah, riveting radio as we're doing statistics. Okay, so this is for our arcane. Okay, and we've got 442 spells that at some point were arcane. Right? We can all agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take the sum product of that and sum product of that. Okay.
This is what Derek does every day.
This is
you can tell how riveting it could be.
This is incredible. All right. So our arcane average is 2.26. So that means that on average, arcane, if a spell is in the arcane list. Now remember, these might include spells that are also in primal, but if you're just being able to cast arcane, then this is what you're getting. So we're trying to figure out here which one is the best of the best. All right. So next, we're going to do divine. So we're going to include all spells, and we'll do, oh, by the way, all spells, so everything is a 2.18, 2.19 technically. So arcane is better than average. Divine is divided by 0. Oh, it's because it didn't even have the low enough.
Riveting.
Stop. You suck. All right, divine.
I could watch Data all day. I think Data's sweet.
Divine.
You're a baseball fan.
I am a baseball fan, but I can barely see it.
Baseball's all stats. I love baseball.
I know. I'm watching the
Field of Dreams is on right now.
Games right now. I'm watching it while talking to you.
All right. Primal is 2.15. All right. So
repeating, of course.
Repeating, of course. And now the moment of truth. We've got occult.
Uh-oh.
Yes, but did you include the level 10 spells in your data?
I did not yet. No.
Oh, well,
it would just make divine even worse.
The data is flawed.
This is true.
This is true. All right, here we go. Oh man. Also, my computer's running like Zoom and OBS and everything. Occult is a 2.16.
Oh, so good.
So technically, occult edges out primal by.
Yes, but there's. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but how are you doing the data manipulation? You see, you're doing pure average because there's almost twice as many unique primal spells as there are occult.
But we're not looking at unique spells. We're just
but
looking
I
about.
But I'm that's part of it because you have more. You have more to choose from, and so yeah, maybe that just means the fewer number of occult spells aren't that great, and there's more because there's more primal spells. There's more primal spells overall that are better because there's more unique primal spells.
Well, you could do that, and all you would have to do is change these other values to false. So, for example, if you want to look at spells which are only occult and not anything else,
we getting deep tonight.
Well, then there's only 72 of these spells.
I love my primals. That's why.
Oh, okay. You're fighting for your
My primals.
Yeah, we need the
I write the party primal.
So occult spells on their own. Okay, so this is the entire tradition, and then this is only.
Okay.
All right. So an occult on its own is 2.11. But if we change this to primal only, so this is spells which are primal but aren't anything else. There's only 56 of those, by the way.
It's more than a cult. It's only 34.
And we get
A cult doesn't need more spells.
Come on. I think my mouse might be dying. There we go. Okay.
Abide by that 0.
Primal is 2.04.
No, your methodology is broken.
If you had Steven on more casts, you would have been better off. Let's got higher raters.
That's true. That's true.
Let's take a look at just look at that. Look, this is how many unique arcane spells there are in the game.
Yeah.
There's only 14. It's almost not even. It's almost not enough to even really make it worth doing an average for. And then Divine has 29, which is a okay number.
See, that's why I like Primal, because there's lots of weird stuff that you only get in Primal.
Divine 1.79.
Oh, pathetic.
So pretty much on every metric, Divine is a failure.
Well, every metric that you have rated.
Every metric that I heavily influenced, being a data scientist.
I feel like if you took a 5e player and you never wanted them to ever play Pathfinder, you would just get the last 5 minutes of this video.
That actually checks out. I'll say this: if you're watching
that a video,
if you're watching this, and what just happened, if you enjoyed even the slightest bit of that, you absolutely need to join the Patreon.
And you should play Pathfinder too if you haven't.
So Jarrett says, doesn't the bell curve just mean your data collection was accurate, which of course it should be, but it doesn't mean that your tier opinions are actually more correct? Not that I particularly disagree. It simply means that I didn't have a bias. Like we would assume that the bias would be a C, right? That's if you go to college and they grade on a curve, right? You try to make it so that the majority of the opinions or majority of the grades are at C, and then you have a bell curve falling off. It means that yes, my opinions were biased, but they're flavored by me, but it was done so in equal opportunity. We didn't end up like if you say, "Oh, Derek hates Pathfinder. Derek hates all the spells. Derek gives everything Fs and Ds," you would have seen a distribution that would have been much higher in Ds and Fs and much lower in A's and B's. Instead, you saw basically a completely normal, balanced distribution of spells, which suggests that my methodology, while ultimately, my own,
it's Derek thinks Pathfinder's meh.
Derek, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back.
No, listen. No, all I'm trying to say is, the spells came out to be average based off of my grading potential. I mean, I think that's almost makes total sense. If someone came and showed me all the spells were A, I would say, well, you were just that's like somebody who goes, wow, what'd you think of that restaurant? 10 out of 10. What'd you think of that restaurant? 10 out of 10. What about Taco Bell? 10 out of 10. And you're like, okay, this person, his opinion is useless because he just likes everything.
And you wanted the spells to succeed. You were sad to see them have to be graded Fs.
Yeah, that's true. I was a tough grader. So again, one of the things that we want to do with this data is make it available. And then we also are thinking about ways that we can categorize the spells. And this might be where you were able to help us. We might give some people on the Discord some editing privileges.
We got a lot of data people on the Discord.
Yeah, we do. Like, I kind of want to be able to go through and rate spells as being like, okay, this is a spell attack. This is a ranged AoE. This is a close ranged AoE, or, close, what's the word? Like a cone AoE, like a close-up AoE. And then that way, a person could come and use our data and say, I want to find the best damaging spells for a ranged AoE at level 6. And
so
then
instead, you want Pathfinder to be more video gamey.
Wow, you're taking the fun out of everything.
Yeah, you made it more data than an
I want you make no decisions whatsoever.
Raise your hand if you use Foundry or Pathfinder Nexus or Archives of Nethys. And you
for reading.
I use it for everything.
If you use it, if you use it for searching, if you use it for building anything.
Yeah, sure. But you're like, I am trying to take the role playing out of role playing.
I do not think
tabletop
Role play could be a
playing.
category.
That's what I want it to be.
I do not think role playing is a thing that you could do. Like, you don't have to. People associate taking shitty spells with role playing. Well, that doesn't make sense. Like, role playing isn't the opposite of power. The role playing exists on its own entire axis. As I said before, you could role play a game of tic-tac-toe. So it doesn't matter. Right? The concept of role playing game itself is sort of silly and perfunctory. Besides, you want to talk about role playing? Aren't your characters trying to save the world? Aren't your characters trying to do the right thing? Aren't your characters trying to live up to their goals and their objectives? Wouldn't they
obviously
becoming stronger?
You've obviously never played my games.
Okay.
That is not true.
Wouldn't they take the most effective?
No, my characters on my stream, not only
I agree with
did
Steve
half
on
of
this, by
them
the way.
No.
Half of them took flaws for their
Most of my players are
characters.
trolls, though. So
yeah. Well, no. By the way, I just want to clear that. Andrew says disagree. You could build powerful characters, still be able to roleplay. I completely agree. I think that those are two completely different axes. You could build a really shitty character and roleplay it very well, but you could also build a really powerful mechanical character and roleplay it really well. Role playing is not the opposite or absence of power. People act like that because I played the character with the 5 strength and the tragic backstory that really limits me, and every round I'm slow 2 because I'm crying every time. Like, that makes me a better role player. Like, that's too much.
Yeah, but if you take any writing course, they talk all the time about how flaws are what really brings that character, and you need those flaws.
yeah, but you can have flaws and be powerful.
Look at Superman. Superman's the most boring character of all time. It's impossible to write for because he has no flaws.
Wait, it's kryptonite.
Yeah, and that was invented because he was so boring.
I
And
mean, that's
it's
true.
literally the only. It's literally the only.
I think Superman is
flaw.
really boring.
It is. He's actually incredibly boring. It's one of the worst. He's
Where,
the most boring character
if you had to
for
be
writers,
if you had to be a superhero, which one would you pick?
exactly, that's the
Not
problem.
Superman. I think he's
Why
boring.
wouldn't you pick Superman?
No, of course you would.
Of course you would pick
Of course you
Superman.
would pick
I
Superman.
would
Superman's
100%
amazing.
not pick Superman.
But he's so boring as a writer.
Wait. Am I crazy here, Donnie Boothby? Would you not pick Superman if you had to be a hero superhero?
Superman's not even that powerful.
Oh my God, yes, he is.
No, you would want to pick someone like Franklin Richards or somebody from the
it's
MCU.
like Doctor Strange. If
You
we're
want
getting to
reality
these arguments, or like
warping
Thor,
people. Yes.
right?
Bob,
Yes,
I
anyone.
have to interject here.
Power
for
Galactic,
a minute
yes.
on you. Your Marvel fandom is blinding you. The fact that the level of DC is so much higher than the
Who's
power
DC?
level
Dr.
of Marvel.
Mixopixelix or whatever his name is? He can
Yes.
reality warp. I want that guy.
All right.
I'd probably personally take Wolverine myself.
Oh my God,
Wolverine's cool.
That's the worst choice that I could ever possibly
I
imagine.
love
Wolverine's
Wolverine.
cool.
Wolverine's cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you, Bob.
I mean,
There are two
You
types
don't
of
wanna
people
be
in the
him.
world:
Wolverine's
people who
fun.
think Wolverine is cool and people who are wrong.
See?
Truth.
Anyway.
Wolverine's
He's cool.
awesome.
You just don't want to be him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a.
Well, I'll be honest with
He's
you.
cool.
Anti-heroes have never been my thing, and I
Oh, I
understand.
love anti-heroes.
I know, and I don't like the Deadpools. And
Punisher
the Wolverines.
is like my favorite person.
I've never been a big anti. I grew up reading books. I grew up reading books like Lord of the Rings and watching movies like Willow. So I just believe in the inherent goodness. Or you have the anti-hero that becomes a hero. Like the Han Solo becomes a hero. The Mad Mardigan becomes the hero. That's a great journey. I do enjoy that journey.
This $2 tips for me, Derek. Put it in my bank account.
Minus 10 points for thinking Superman sucks. Oh, that's good. That's good. So I mean, I guess at the end of the day, again, thinking about this from a data perspective, we've rated all these spells, and you have this distribution, and my takeaway of this is. My personal belief is, and I've said this before, I don't think Ds are necessarily bad spells. I think they're just very, very, very specific, biased spells that might be the perfect spell and the perfect opportunity. But in most of your campaigns, in most of your APs, it's just not going to come up often enough for it to be really worth your time. It could be very powerful, but it's not always the best. I personally think that S's, and certainly the S pluses, are too powerful. I think they are too good. As much as I like slow and I like casting magic missile stuff, I think those spells are too good. I think they crowd out other spells. I think it makes the decision making easy. I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering. It's like when you have a set of busted cards in Standard and you just go, well, yeah, I guess I'm going to play with these because they're just better than everything else that they could do. I really think you want to be in that A to B range. The C spells function. They work. But I don't know that I'm particularly excited about it when you think about the fact that these are limited resources for your casters. You only get to cast so many spells per day. So ultimately, if I could, I would love to see that F pile get pushed into the middle, and I would love for those S's to get pushed back to the right, and sort of fill out more spells in that A, B, C range. Maybe upgrade some of those Fs or remake them. We've also talked that a lot of the spells that we said were Fs, we personally thought should have been rituals. A lot of spells in that F and D. And I think that is a space that even Paizo seems to be moving away from. I don't think there were any new rituals in Dark Archive.
They said some of the spells also you just think were too long.
No,
they're just too wordy.
I think rituals just didn't catch on.
No, but they never
I've
did.
never done one.
But
I've
Steven,
never done one.
I agree with Steven. There should be something more to rituals. It just seems so back of the book.
Yeah, I've been playing. I play twice a week, every week for years, and we've never done one.
Yeah,
it's like it just doesn't come up.
Boothby, you said your group you haven't done them either, or your group doesn't.
No, I mean only as the this AP calls for this ritual to be used for XYZ.
That's actually correct. Yeah, we just did one, and it was in the AP, and that was it.
But I love the idea of them, but there's just not enough.
Yeah,
that are useful. And
Derek, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sir, go for it.
How many S tier spells do you think would still be S tier if the incapacitation trait didn't exist?
If they got rid of incapacitation?
Yeah.
Meaning would there be
so
more
many of the
S
S tier
tiers?
spells are S tiers because they're so much more powerful than the spells that have that incapacitation trait. And if the other spells got rid of that, they remain S. Is fear still an S if charm gets rid of incapacitation?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I think the problem with incapacitation for me is I loved the spells, and they did this in some spells. Phantasmal Killer is a great example of this, where they put the incapacitation effect only into the critical failure line. I really like that a lot better, because the problem, I get it. They don't want you to be able to just go in and the boss fails at save and then it's dead. That's fine. The problem with the incapacitation is that because it upgrades regular failures to successes and successes to critical successes, it's not even worth casting for the upper part of the spell either. It's like they wanted to protect against the ceiling, or I guess the floor, depending on who point of view you're looking from. But in doing so, they eliminated the value of the rest of the spell. And that's why I think Phantasmal Killer is an excellent design spell, because the only part, like a monster who's targeted by that can fail the save, and they don't get that upgraded to success. But if they get the critical failure, then that's the part with the incapacitation. So I would have stuck incapacitation only on the critical failures.
So would you do that, like if you did it that way across all spells and added that to fear and slow, do you think that balances them?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, what's the critical effect on fear? Fear, frighten 3, fleeing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you this. Critical failure of slow needs incapacitation.
The slow one is just ridiculous.
Like if a creature gets slowed 2, you can just remove it from the battlefield. So just straight up. I also hate those spells, by the way. Can I go off on a rant here? I hate slow and I hate paralyze. I hate slow, I hate stun, I really hate paralyze. And the reason why I hate them isn't because of my players using them against my monsters. Oh no, my boss wasn't a cool epic monster. I don't give a shit about that. I'm the game master. I have infinite monsters. I think paralyzing or slowing or stunning a player character is one of the shittiest things that you can do. They came here to play, and you're basically telling them you don't get to play. I hate that. I really do hate that.
We've talked about this. I don't allow those in my game. I do not allow stun or any of those in any of my games, because it was designed in first edition and it became tradition, but it is I can't do anything, and then literally the player gets up and like watches TV or something. And I get rid of all those. Those are not allowed.
You watch everyone play for 15 minutes, your turn comes up, you're paralyzed, you wait another 15 minutes for another shot to do something.
Yeah, those are banned. For both sides. That's the thing. The players like them, but I'm like, yeah, well, do you want me to do it to you? So no.
It's really cool when you're not affected by it.
But I'm okay with there being asymmetrical. I'm okay with there being asymmetrical effects. I'm okay with the players having
slow one or slow one's not bad. I don't mind if they do it, but if I don't allow the you win buttons.
I mean, strategy said, is dominate better or worse than paralyze? Here's how messed up with this is. If we were playing, even as a player group, if I was a player and Bob was a player and Donnie was a player and Steven was the GM, I would rather Steven, the GM, dominate Donnie so that Donnie now has to attack us. And that obviously, then I would rather that Steven did that than paralyze Donnie. Because I'm at least Donnie gets to have fun. And he's like, all right, boys.
Oh, yeah.
Something's happening.
We do that all the time. And the players love it. They're like, oh, and then they go all out killing each other. That's fun for everyone, especially me. But yeah, anything that stops you from playing is a big no.
The whole it's your turn and now it's not your turn is like you already had to wait an hour for your turn to start in Pathfinder, and then just to not have a turn is wortherless.
I mean, right, it's a slow game. We all know that it's a slow game. It's a very mechanically dense. I don't even care if you're playing on Foundry. There's a lot of number crunching, especially as you get higher level, and it gets worse when you get higher level because suddenly everybody's hasted. So now everybody has 4 actions per turn, or and they're moving their bear, so they're really kind of taking 5 actions per turn, or they're triple shotting for 2 actions, and then they have a haste action, and it's
like all this was against me in Quest of the Frozen Flame.
And so and so you end up with people taking 5 actions per turn, and the GM's monsters are getting more complicated. And so, it's not unreasonable to take 15 to 20 minutes to get back to your turn in a big table, in a full table that isn't operating at peak efficiency, and to be told, all right, that was your turn, skip it.
It's awful.
I think that's awful. Lazarus says, I did a 2E one-shot a month ago. My wife got paralyzed and had to sit for an hour. It sucked, and we will never let that happen again. It was the worst, never again.
I thought he was and we got divorced after that. She's no longer my wife.
It's really bad. And the fun thing is we talk about this all the time. It's if you played, I'd like to take players from today and have them play first edition, not even second or third, first, because first edition is so insanely brutal. It is it's anti-fun, and yet it still worked.
It worked on some of us.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. It is I have a lot of stories of people who tried it once and then they got killed, or the GM did something and blah blah blah, and then they never played again. I've heard that.
I think what first edition does, whether you realize it or not, there was pride that came with surviving a session in first edition. And I think I don't think I'm crazy to say this, but I think the default assumption of most people when you play a game of 5th edition, certainly a game of 5th edition, but of Pathfinder 2, you assume 3 things. 1, you assume that you're going to win, you're going to not die, and then if anything bad does happen to you, it's not going to be permanent. I think that's just a baseline assumption.
Well, now it's a story game, not a survival horror game. Exploration.
Right. I mean, the game has changed for that perspective.
My proudest achievement as a role-playing game player is that I played first edition as a zero level character with Ben as the GM, and my character walked out of it alive.
I mean, yeah.
For the people that don't know, Ben is a patron of our show, and he is a very deadly GM.
He is the
cold killer.
He is the quintessential old school, game master.
Yes.
But also, again, it's also a matter of perspective, right? Your characters back then weren't legendary heroes, these epic backstories, right? They were scum of the earth who are trying to scavenge a few silvers together, right? It's just how you approach the nature of the game. It's like the difference between playing a modern day video game versus a roguelike, where you're just going to get killed and then you have to restart, right? It's all about that expectation setting. But I mean, it's outside of Wheel of Pain spins, it can be pretty difficult to kill some people in Pathfinder 2. I'll tell you that.
I don't know if you play in our Northern Reaches campaign, people die a lot.
Way to advertise it, Bob.
I mean, it is so fun.
Well, yeah, but you're skipping the part, Bob, where everybody gets 3 lives.
Yes.
So if you do die, it does have a consequence. It takes up one of your 3 lives, but technically you still get the experience, you still get the gold, but you know, you got 1 strike against you and 2 strikes and 3 strikes and you're out. So overall, 92% overall agreed with the ratings from this. So of our final rankings. So
man, I need to get you to come in and help us with RPG Superstar, because this is all we do, man. It's data. I'm serious. It's fascinating because this even happened recently, because we had public voting and then the private voting, and some monsters did really well in the public voting, and they got just really hammered badly in the private voting because of mechanics.
Interesting.
Yeah, it happened quite a bit. And then Mark and I.
So the private voting is your Patreon or your Discord?
No, that's the professionals. So it's like myself. Mark,
so it's like the fan base versus the
it's the fan base versus Luis Loza, Mark, Linda. I didn't vote. Param, Vanessa Hoskins, like anyone who's basically professionals. And
interesting.
I'd say about 15%, like 85% are pretty close. Like, you know, within, but
sure,
like 15% were really off, and we would weight it. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what you think, especially for the next one.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lance beat me to it. He's like, so like Metacritic, you know, like or like we're Rotten Tomatoes, where like the audience gives it a 99% score, but the critics give it like a 61% score. Or it's you know, Bob and I.
It did happen though. It did happen. I mean, that really had to do more with like silvers and coppers. Like the difference between like going from a silver to a copper was that. Not so much like like platinums and grand prize and golds were all pretty much like everyone agreed they were really.
And this is the next Kickstarter, right? This is the next best year that's going to be in the Kickstarter.
Yeah. The one that's in the Kickstarter now. We already did these. In fact, we already got the art and like finishing up those monsters, but now we're going to do the third one. And then the third one I'm still figuring out, because we modified the voting slightly. We keep like refining it, but we do have, I'll show it to you, Derek. It's like we have 6 categories.
Got my best year.
I'd be very curious to show you.
Battle Zoo right here.
Oh yeah, did you guys go? You have yours right there?
Oh, Derek has the fancy ones.
Oh, you got the printout version.
I print mine and then I spiral bound it so I can open it up.
That is awesome.
Derek has the fancy versions.
He does have the fancy ones. You didn't hand those out to anyone, huh, Derek? You're just keeping them.
I think Smith has them.
Actually, Smith claimed 2 of them. So.
Oh my God, 2 of them. What does he need 2 for?
That's what I said.
No, he wanted the collector's edition.
That one's sweet.
Yeah,
he really liked that.
So Smith got the collector's editions, and I have the 2 regular print versions of Battle.
These are the kind of books that I like, so I'm really excited for.
So, Corbeck says, "Would you care to rate a few heightened 10th level spells? Are there any spells?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Are there any spells that heighten specifically to 10th level with an effect? I don't know that there are, but
I don't think there
10th level with a different.
By the way, I did go through.
know.
By the way, I did go through the spell that had the largest change on heighten. Sleep at 1st level, we rated an F. Sleep at 4th level, we rated an A.
Really? What about invisibility? Because
invisibility is like a B, and then greater 4th level visibility. I think it's like S or S plus.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yes and no, except the problem is like, because we're playing right now where everyone's 12th level, so everyone's like, oh, greater invisibility, but everything is true sight. Everything is true seeing.
Yeah, there is a period of time, Steven, where like it does eventually, because otherwise it would just be so busted, and and things do acquire true sight, and it does kind of mitigate that effect. 100%, I do agree with that. So they said forceful hand. Huh?
That one only goes to 9th though.
Oh, does it?
I can think off the top of my head, all these.
It does a lot of damage.
They all most heighten up to 9th. I can't think of any of that heightens up to 10th.
10th level dominate.
Yeah, it looks like heighten.
What about any summon creatures? Do those go to 10th?
I don't think so. Dominate.
Dominate does the 10th level duration's unlimited. That's pretty good.
Elemental does heighten to 10th, but it's a level 15 creature, so it's useless.
I mean, am I correct that a 10th level dominate, you force the target to whatever the duration's unlimited. You could just cast this every day, right?
Yeah, as long as you keep succeeding, right? They keep failing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it still gets to make a will save at the end of each of its turn. So
yeah,
it doesn't get that much better. you know, I mean, if you give it a bunch of orders, it's still going to get to make new saves all the time. So,
yeah, I don't know any off the top of my head, but if anybody else in the chat sees any that they know of, obviously we'll quickly rank them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, for Infinity Dominate is pretty sweet when you think about like the mind control BBEG with his, you know, legion of mind dominated people. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like this actually supports the fiction, but yeah, I think that's all right. All right, well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock, so we're probably going to wrap this up. But
well, all I know is the knights survived because we only took like 200 damage tonight, 230 damage.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, you know, I put the total there just out of because that's how many spells we had. I honestly didn't.
So we can still make videos.
Yeah, we're right. Knights of Last Call didn't die. If someone had killed the Knights of Last Call, they would have become the new boss. But you would have known this. But I would also have given you everything on the channel. You would have got. You would have been.
There's still time.
Which means the debt.
There's still time.
You owe.
You'll also acquire.
I got more money than brains. Give me a second.
You'll also acquire the debt of the Knights of Last Call. But you know what? I'm feeling very saucy. I'll also send you this camera. I'll send you all this stuff. You can get my studio.
There's a decent. The debt. That studio's got some debt too.
Yeah, you come over. You can come to Ohio. You can start filming. We're still doing some.
That's the biggest downgrade. You have to move to Ohio.
Yeah, gotta move to Ohio. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Les, you also receive a partially disassembled table from Lance Quagmire's garage.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah, you get all the best things, right?
And you get table 2.0, which is going to be disassembled to take away for table 3.0.
Yeah, I got to try to sell that thing or something.
It's a solid table.
Yeah, it is. It just doesn't work for our new setup.
So, new channel owners do smash or pass videos.
Right.
That's probably the success of the channel.
No, I mean, listen, new owner, new channel under new management. They could do whatever they want. They could come in and make this a 5th edition channel and find all the success that, you know, we never did. Like, it'll be great. Before you know it, they'll be making top 3 Warlock multiclass. It's time to make your Kaladin or your Pallock or whatever the hell they make in 5th edition.
So next Thursday, is that what you're doing? You just called it. Okay, can't wait. Can't wait to see your Pallock.
One of my favorite things when I was like, obviously we weren't playing 5th edition, but when I read that like one of the go-to builds is like Barbarian Rogue, because Barbarian can relentlessly attack and it you know gets advantage against them, but he gets advantage because, you know, it's like he's a barbarian, he's just going balls to the wall. But because of the mechanics of Pathfinder or 5th edition, that also means that triggers sneak attack because you have advantage. And so it's like this barbarian is like going like, ah, but somehow they're all sneak attacks because advantage is advantage.
Conan.
The meta
Barbarian thief.
The meta is Sorkaldinlock. Okay, that makes sense. Anyways.
Conan will be the first one for movie night if I ever do that.
Yes, if we ever do movie night, it's going to be Conan the Barbarian, the original 1982.
I was going to say, make sure you pick the right one.
Yeah, yes, not the one with Jason Momoa. The one.
No,
with
I want Arnold.
I've never seen the Jason Momoa, and then the one with
either.
Conan. That was, I think, the first R-rated movie I saw in the theaters with my dad.
There are some boobies.
Oh, that movie is.
I was just. Are they Arnold's boobies or
the Arnold movie? No, when I was a kid, I wanted to. When it was.
I'm just watching for Arnold's boobies.
Arnold's boobies. Yeah,
is one of those. It's perfectly fine, but there's no reason to it exist. Remake.
It wasn't really good, but yeah.
I've seen the original Conan maybe 1,000 times, and the most famous, one of the top 3 most famous music scores in history.
Yeah, Basil Poludris or whatever. Very good.
Yeah, very good.
Incredible. It's not on Spotify. The soundtrack to The Destroyer is, but not that. But anyways, yeah, the new Conan was not very good, but the old one is amazing. It's a classic. Yeah. So I want to say thank you to Donnie, Bob, Steven, Damien, and to Boothby for coming in and helping us clean this out. It was nice to have some patrons in here, and all these patrons here on us with us tonight are our higher tier members, and it's definitely something that we like to do here at Knights of Last Calls, to find opportunities for you to hang out with us, be part of the conversation. Again, I'll it's not there now, but I'll include a link. It'll be on our Patreon. I'll put it on our Patreon page. I'll put it in the description of this and try to maybe I'll probably go back to the prior videos as well and put it in the description. But I'm going to make this a public Google Doc. I'm going to update it with our new level 10 data elements, and we're going to get it out there. If we ever do go back and add focus spells or cantrip spells, we can go ahead and add those too. Maybe we'll figure out some way that we can publicly outsource it, and you all can sort of vote on. It's like we'll come back and it's like every spell got an A, Derek. It's incredible. Without you there, everybody was just like, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Because, it'd be fun to have this sort of comprehensive, repository for our knowledge. Now again,
well, and you should note that the reason that this is public data is because the patrons actually wanted it to be public. We asked the patrons if this was going to be dated for just them. This was for the patrons. We did this for you guys. The patrons specifically said, no, we want this for everyone. So our patrons are very generous. They want this for the whole Pathfinder 2 community.
Yeah, I mean, I've said a lot of good things about our Patreon and our patrons, and I'll just say it again. But not only are they an incredible community of role-playing game enthusiasts, they're just great people in general. We have a lot of people coming to our channel who are interested in Pathfinder 2 and playing in Northern Reaches. But we also have a lot of people coming to our channel because they want to talk about role-playing games. They want to learn more because I'm talking about some games that they've never played before. They may never even have heard of some of these games, and they're curious and they're interested. And I think that Knights of Last Call is a great place to not only talk about those games and learn about those games, it's a great place to play those games as well, because we have an entire community game set up where we play all sorts of games from first edition old school gaming to modern.
Ruby, aren't you running stuff on community games?
Me? I have a
you have a Kineticist playtest.
2 Kineticist playtests on Saturday, probably doing some more in the next couple weeks, depending on how it goes. I have a Sunday night community game converting strange aeons from 1E to 2E. That's been going strong.
Are you playing in the PWOL game?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right.
They have a lot of stuff in the community.
I joined the Patreon to play more and ended up just running more.
That's classic.
That's
funny.
funny.
That is classic.
My real life players have told me how dumb I am for joining a Patreon to do more work.
All right. Well, Boothby, if we ever get to a point where we've got some game slots open, I'll make sure that I'll keep you in mind as getting a first crack. I mean, certainly one of the things that we're trying to do with our Patreon is not only get more games running, but I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for people to experience a lot of other role-playing games. You guys know we love Pathfinder 2. You know that I beat it up. I'm critical of it, but ultimately it's my D20 game of choice. But I'm really passionate about a lot of other games as well, and I'm really excited to talk about them. And I am hoping that that we're able to diversify the channel a little bit and give a lot of this attention to that. Bob showing, by the way, Bob, your core rule book has been at Dirt's for like a week.
He didn't text me. He's supposed to message me, so I'm supposed to trade this in for the real core rule book that I thought I was getting.
Yeah, you will.
I'll message him.
But yeah, so keep informed. Keep a watch out. We're gonna have new videos coming out. We have our Root RPG Powered by the Apocalypse game coming out. It just won silver at the Ennies. So it's got street cred, I guess. Quest for the Frozen Flame is coming back end of the month, and of course we're gonna have some new live streams here on Thursdays. Now that we have rated all the spells, well, almost all of them, but maybe we'll get a bonus. We'll get a quick little bonus one in there, maybe midweek, to just tidy up the dark archives and the Knights of Last Wall, just to kind of make it everything nice and neat. All right, well, thanks a lot, everyone, and from all of us here at Knights of Last Call, I want to say thank you for sticking with us, not just tonight, but over the last 26 nights, and we'll see you next time from Knights of Last Call.
I need you more.